Hello, this is your host, Adam Graham, from Pretty Much the Present. And in this video, we'll be bringing you a compilation of old-time radio detective podcasts from 2010. The podcasts are appearing, for the most part, unedited, except for some extraneous or repetitive elements that are being removed because this is a compilation. As I said, these are old, so any websites or offers mentioned may not be valid at the time you're listening unless you find them on our website currently. Now, with that said, here is a week of Old Time Radio Detective podcast. Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, as we kick off another week with Box 13. If you got any comments, send them my way, box13@greatdetectives.net. Please cast your vote for me over on Podcast Alley. That's podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. Please join our new Facebook group, facebook.greatdetectives.net. All right, I think, and anything else, .greatdetectives.net. All right, well, we're going to get into the show in just a second. I do encourage everybody, as you make your travel plans in the new year, remember, it's important to get the best price on hotels, airline tickets, cruises, rental cars, and even more. And you can do that by going to JohnnyDollarAir.com. Go to JohnnyDollarAir.com. That's our affiliate page for Priceline. And when you place an order on JohnnyDollarAir.com, it helps to support the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. So you get the same great deals you get with Priceline, and you also get to support great old time radio. So, all right, well, let's get into today's episode, Triple Cross.
Box 13, with the star of Paramount Pictures, Alan Ladd, as Dan Holliday.
Hey, look, boss. Look at this. An ad in the Star Times out-of-town newspaper. Yeah.
Box 13, Adventure Wanted. We'll go any place, do anything. Well, this looks like the right answer, Tony.
Yeah.
I think I'll write a letter to Box 13.
The letter was postmarked from a city in Nevada. It came airmail, special delivery to Box 13 and me. It sounded like a great chance to grab a change of scenery and maybe a little fun. Fun? Brother, how wrong could I be? And now, back to Box 13 and Dan Holliday's newest adventure, Triple Cross. Just run an advertisement in the Star Times, one that reads, Adventure Wanted, will go any place, do anything, and see what you get. A lot of them can be interesting, like the one I listened to Susie read. The one that came airmail, special delivery from Nevada.
Enclosed is enough money to buy you a plane ticket to Los Meros. You want adventure? All right. Come to Los Meros. Register at the Paradise Hotel. Wait in your room until you're contacted.
And that's all it says, Susie?
That all, Mr. Holliday. There's not even a signature even. It's what's called an ominous letter.
What kind of a letter, Susie?
Ominous. That means it's not signed by anybody.
The word you mean is anonymous.
Oh.
But you could be right after all. Well, Susie, lock up the office and look for me when you see me with a new plot and a nice tan. A new plot and a nice tan, I said. I got the plot, but the tan almost turned into a beautiful white pallor, the kind that goes well with lilies. The plane trip was smooth. The trip from Airport to the Paradise Hotel was nice and easy. And the hotel itself? Well, it was the only one I could remember that looked like the ads in the travel folders. Oddly enough, there was a room reserved for me in my name. Okay, somebody checked and found out who I was. I explored the suite, thinking maybe I'd get a lead on what this was all about. But it was just a fancy set of rooms, all newly decorated. I sat down, and then, about a half hour later... Come in.
Message for you, Mr. Holliday.
Oh, thanks. Here you are.
Oh, thank you.
Just a minute. Who gave this to you?
A man, sir.
What kind of a man? What did he look like?
Oh, just a man, sir.
Oh, I see. A head, 2 eyes, nose, 2 ears, and a mouth. That his description?
Yes, sir. That's exactly what he looked like.
Good. Then I'll know him when I see him. Oh, did he ask for an answer?
No, sir. He just told me to bring the envelope to you. Will that be all, sir?
Huh? Oh, yes, thanks. Well, 2 $100 bills. And a message that said, buy a red carnation in a flower shop and put it in your lapel. After dinner, go to the casino roulette table, buy $200 in chips and put them on number 18. If you win, walk away, wait 10 minutes, and put half the winnings on number 22. After you play, wait in the casino. So, with a carnation in my lapel, I bought $200 in chips and walked to the roulette table. There weren't many players. It was a little too early for the big crowd. So I waited a minute and watched the play. Took a look at the croupier, but I might as well have been in Timbuktu. He didn't give me a tumble. Okay, the best way to see what was going to happen was to see. I shoved the whole 200 on number 18. One or two of the other players placed bets, and then...
No more bets, please. No more bets. Number 18, red and even. Your chip, sir.
The croupier shoved the winnings across to me. I watched his face. If he had any expression, it was on the soles of his shoes. Well, maybe $7,000 win was common around here. I left the table, sat down, and did a little problem in arithmetic, which figured out to be $126,000. That's what I'd have if number 22 came up. And, brother, it looked from where I sat as though it would. The 10 minutes went by, and I walked back to the table. Waited until the wheel stopped.
Number 16, red and even. Place your bets, please, ladies and gentlemen.
Slowly, I shoved 3,500 in chips to number 22. This time, the others around the wheel did lift. 3,500 at 35 to 1. Then the wheel began to slow up.
No more bets, ladies and gentlemen. No more bets, please.
That croupier was as cold as the floor of a mausoleum. Somebody dropped a pin, and I heard it hit the floor. The white ball clicked its way until...
Number 22, black and even. Your chip, sir.
I cashed in the chips, and there I sat, with $126,000 tucked away in my inside coat pocket. Somebody had that wheel fixed for a killing. I began to wish I was back in my office. I didn't like it. A crooked play. Why? Who? I made up my mind to go to the owner of the place and wash my hands of the whole thing when...
Oh, there you are, Mr. Holliday. I've been looking for you. I have a message for you.
Yeah?
Well, it's verbal this time, Mr. Holliday.
Oh, what is it?
You're to go into the bar and wait.
Is that all?
Yes, sir.
The same man gave you this message?
Yes, sir.
Did he still have a head, 2 eyes, a nose, and 2 ears?
Yes, sir.
All right, here you are, kid.
Oh, thank you.
You know, if this keeps up much longer, you'll be able to retire my tips alone.
Thank you, Mr. Holliday. Will that be all?
How much did this character give you to forget what he looked like?
Oh, nothing, sir. Nothing at all.
And a smart boy like you should have taken a good look the second time.
Huh?
Especially since I asked about him after the first message.
Oh, he was big, dark, a little mustache, and had a little white scar over his right eye.
Will you take $5 for that information?
That's all right, Mr. Holliday. No charge for that service.
Good boy. I'll see you later.
Yes, sir, Mr. Holliday.
I walked toward the bar, wondering what was coming next. I didn't like that fortune burning the cloth in my pocket. The bar was like my suite. Fancy, rich, and expensive. I climbed up on one of the stools, and the bartender came over and...
Yes, sir. May I serve you, sir?
Got any ginger ale?
Yes, sir. What with, sir?
Oh, by itself. Just a glass of ginger ale.
Just a ginger ale?
Uh-huh. You see, I like the bubbles.
Champagne has bubbles, too.
But they're still around the next day. Just a ginger ale.
Yes, sir, of course.
Excuse me, is someone sitting here?
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Thank you.
Here you are, sir. Ginger ale.
Thanks.
The usual, please.
Okay. Yes, sir. May I, sir?
You got a light?
Of course.
Thank you.
Don't mention it.
Here you are.
Thanks. Why do you drink ginger ale?
I like it. Why do you drink martinis?
Same reason, I guess. It's a brilliant conversation, isn't it?
Well, I've heard better.
You're not very friendly, are you?
A Boy Scout is always friendly.
And does good turns. So I hear.
Do you want to be helped across the street?
All right, I'll shut up.
I took a good look at her. There was something scared-looking about her. She was nervous. Well, so was I, because the minutes were passing and I still had that money. And I wanted to get rid of it. But I wondered about the girl, whether she had any part in this. I watched out of the corner of my eye. She picked up her bag, reached for a lipstick, and then...
Oh, clumsy.
So it's true what they say about women's handbags. You get the stuff on the bar, I'll pick up the kitchen sink off the floor.
I'm so sorry. Did the powder spill on you?
No, it's all right. Yeah. Here you are.
The mirror didn't break, did it?
Nope, you're still good for 7 years more.
Thanks. Thanks ever so much.
I told you I was a good Boy Scout.
You have a nice smile.
Want a toothpaste commercial to go with it?
Now, don't be nasty.
I'm sorry. I guess I'm just as nervous as you are.
Let's talk about something else.
She chatted away, and
It really is
I
a
listened
lovely
with half
place,
an ear.
isn't it?
Once in a while, threw in a yes or a no. And the clouds began to gather. The mirror at the back of the bar went back and forth. The people got bigger, then shrank to midgets. Somebody drove a plane through my head. It buzzed around and made a bad landing on my brain, then...
There you are. Feeling better now?
Oh.
You'll be all right. Just lie there, take it easy.
Sure, Hey, I'm in my room.
Of course. We brought you here.
We?
I'm the hotel physician, Mr. Holliday.
Oh, what happened?
And just a fainting spell, nothing serious.
Fainting spell? What are you talking about?
Fainting spells. Your wife told me you get them.
My what told you what?
No. Just lie back.
Whose wife said what?
Your wife. She's got to have a prescription filled.
Now, listen, Doc, Hand me my coat, will you?
It's better if you lie here.
It's better if you hand me my coat. Give it to me.
Oh, very well. There you are. What's the matter?
Was my wife in this room?
Of course, she came up with me.
Uh-huh. Doc, what would you do with $126,000?
What? 100? That's an odd question. What would you do with it?
I don't know. Because I haven't got it anymore.
Now, back to Triple Cross, another Box 13 adventure with Alan Ladd as Dan Holliday.
So there I was, $126,000 in the red. If it was meant to be taken from me, then somebody was working it the hard way. Sure, the girl slipped something in my ginger ale when I picked up the stuff that fell out of her handbag. She took the money. All right, I wanted no more of it. I was going to head for the nearest exit, running, not walking, when... Come in.
You Holliday?
Yeah. Do I know you?
Call me Tony. I'm the guy who wrote the Box 13.
Oh. All right, goodbye, Tony.
Sit down.
What's the idea?
Funny, I was going to ask you that.
We're playing 20 questions. Let's skip the other 18, Tony.
I got a big one left. Where's the dough?
You tell me.
Give it to me.
Well, I didn't like him. I didn't like the gun he was playing with either. And I didn't like the little white scar over his right eye or the little black mustache. I was willing right then and there to cross him off my friendship list. But I told him what happened.
It's a great story. Ain't heard one like it since I read fairy tales.
Well, I don't care if you believe it or not.
You got no regard for your health, Holiday.
Look, Tony, I'm leaving this place
You'll
now.
be too heavy to carry out if you take one more step. That's better. Now, what kind of a frame is this?
Once more, you tell me. I played a crooked wheel downstairs. I don't like that.
You got adventure, didn't you?
I don't want anything that's crooked.
Look who's talking. Who was the girl?
Believe it or not, I never saw her before.
What did she look like?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Ever try to take a good look at anyone in that bar downstairs? It's too dark to even see a lighted match.
You're smart, Holiday. The game with the girl is neat. Awful neat. You get the dough, play doggo. Act like the girl slipped you Mickey. Later she turns up with the dough and you two split.
Now talk sense, Tony. I didn't know why I came to Los Morris in the first place. I didn't know how I was going to get that money. How would I have time to dream up that frame with a girl?
Yeah, I never thought of that. Okay, Holiday, maybe you're telling it straight.
Okay. Now can I go?
No. You get that money back first, then you can go.
I don't think I'll stay for the ninth inning, Tony.
The game has not started yet, but you get that dough.
How?
That's your problem, but get it.
Look, Tony, I'm backing out of this. You know I can go to the sheriff.
No, you won't. Because there'll be a tail on you from now on out. One move like you're going to the law. Understand?
Okay, I get it.
And there'll be somebody in this room to see that you don't use the phone. You'll be covered like a pool table, Holiday.
What if I can't find the girl? What if I can't get the money back?
The boss will be awful mad.
And?
There are worse places than Los Morros to spend a lifetime. If you live.
Ever have one of those dreams in which you try to run away from something and can't? Well, this one, with my eyes wide open, was really something. Tony and I went downstairs. Two other characters detached themselves from chairs when Tony nodded at them. Brother, I was covered. It looked hopeless. With Tony not far behind, I asked the doctor if he'd ever seen the girl who said she was my wife. Well, there was no dice there. Then I remembered something. I told Tony I was going back into the bar.
Bar? What for?
Now, look, Tony. Let me do it my way. I'm the one that's on the spot, so let me play it the way I want.
Okay. I'll watch. And don't try for a quick steal, because the boys outside know what to look for. Go ahead.
Thanks. What would I do without you, Tony?
I don't know. Because you're not going to be without me. Remember, I'll be watching.
Yes, sir. May I serve you? Well, feeling better, sir?
Well, much. Where were you when I fainted?
At the other end of the bar, sir.
Oh, yeah. So you were.
It wasn't our ginger ale, sir.
No, it wasn't. I just have a loose head, and when I shake it, it comes off.
May I serve you something, sir?
Yes. An answer to a question.
Well, what's that, sir?
Who was the girl who sat down next to me?
I don't know, sir.
Oh, yes, you do.
I beg your pardon, sir.
Quit the sir business. You knew that girl.
Why do you say that?
Because when she sat down, she asked for the usual, and you brought her a martini. And you said okay when she asked you.
What does that prove?
The martini proves you knew who she was. The okay means she wasn't a guest of the hotel. No bartender as polite as you are would say okay to a lady guest. That makes sense?
Why do you want to know who she is?
Does that make any difference?
Yeah, because I wouldn't want to see her in trouble.
I'll try to keep her out of it.
I won't tell you.
Ever see a picture of Alexander Hamilton?
What are you talking about?
Well, here's one. And funny enough, it's on a $10 bill. In fact, his picture's on all 5 of these bills.
Yeah. Her name's Kathy Lee. I think she has a place at the Las Palmas courts.
Thanks. Put these pictures in frames, will you? I found the Las Palmas courts. And, of course, Tony behind me all the way. The name list in front said Kathy Lee lived in number 8. I looked around before I turned in the walk. Yeah, Tony was closer to me than varnish on a tabletop. I found number 8 and stopped for a second. Looked for a phone line, but there wasn't any. I knocked at the door. No answer. I tried it again. Then I heard Tony whisper from the shadows.
Try the door, Holiday.
I did. It was unlocked. Tony coached from the sidelines.
Go on in.
I went in and closed the door behind me. It was dark. I decided to risk a call. Kathy? Kathy? Kathy Lee? She wasn't there. I fumbled my way to what felt like a dresser and a lamp. Turned it on, and what I saw made me turn that light off fast.
What's the matter?
She's dead.
What are you talking about?
You heard me. She's dead.
You sure?
Well, go in and look.
You go back in and look for that dope. Go on.
Now, look, Tony, I don't know any more of this. That poor kid's dead. Murdered. I want you to call the sheriff.
No, you don't. I said you go back in there and look for that dough.
You look for it.
Leave my fingerprints all over the place. Now you go back in there and hunt.
Don't be a sap. Whoever killed her took the money. Don't you see that?
Maybe. But we'll play this angle all the way. Now stop talking and get in there.
I hated to turn on that light, but I had to. I didn't look at her. I looked through the room. Then I found something. A plane ticket to San Francisco, leaving that night, and a boat ticket for South America. They were in an envelope, but the information on the envelope said there would be 2 reservations. I put it back where I found it because I didn't want Tony to find it on me. And there was something else. A locket with a man's picture in it. I took it off its chain and shoved it in my pocket, then I left.
Well, Holiday?
It's not there. I told you it wouldn't be.
Stand still. Back toward me.
A frisk, Tony? You don't trust me, do you?
Shut up.
No, I told you.
Who killed her?
Find that out and you'll know where the money went.
Come on.
What's so funny?
Holiday, right now I wouldn't want to be in your shoes.
Tony was right. People at the casino saw me win that money, and somebody must have seen the girl with me. Then I got the Mickey. The money was taken, the girl killed. Who did it? Me, Dan Holliday. Because the girl clipped me for the money. Well, this was a beautiful frame. Any art gallery in the country would be proud to hang it. But I knew something Tony didn't. The plane and boat tickets. 2 seats. One for Kathy and her murderer. Somebody who left her tickets in her bungalow to make it look as though she was in on the $100,000 job by herself. Sure. Now her killer was taking a plane. In 1 hour. Then a boat to South America. I could have told Tony, but I wanted to wrap it up myself. Besides, I wanted to get the whole thing to the law. On the way back to the hotel, I figured something out for myself. But I'd have to see the boss of the casino, and I thought I knew how to do that without Tony tagging along. The casino was full. I stopped. Tony stopped.
What's the idea? What now?
I've got to think.
Up to your room.
No.
You want to get hurt?
Sure, go ahead. Shoot me. Now. In front of all these people. You know, Tony, you wouldn't get 10 feet.
Smart, ain't you? Okay, what's now?
I'm going to play blackjack.
What?
Want to watch? I sat at the blackjack table. I had as much interest in the game as Aunt Mamie back in Iowa, who never saw a deck of cards in her life. But I had an idea, and I played it for all it was worth. Look, dealer,
Yes?
I didn't like that last deal.
I beg your pardon, sir.
I said I didn't like that last deal.
Well, return your money, sir.
Never mind the money. Who runs this place?
Hey, what is that guy trying to put on over there? What's it?
It worked. In 3 seconds, I was surrounded by muscle boys, and Tony was hotter than a New York sidewalk in August. But he couldn't touch me. A minute later, I sat across the table from the owner of the casino. I told him what happened, and when I finished, he stared at me and said,
You're trying to tell me somebody let you win that money on my wheel?
I am?
You're crazy. The wheel's straight.
But you know I won that money.
Sure I do. Any time $100,000 slides across, I know it.
But this time it was fixed. The croupier was tipped I was to win.
Wait a minute. Marty, send Frankie up here right away. Huh? Oh. Okay, forget it.
What's the matter?
Riker, the croupier, went off duty just after you won. He's not back yet.
And he won't come back. Now, somebody planned to take the house this evening for that money. Somebody who couldn't risk getting it himself. So I'm the logical one. No one knows me here. I'd look like just another player. Later, Mr. Fix-It plans to pick up the money and beat it. Who? Someone besides yourself who could get to the croupier and bribe him to fix the wheel. Got any ideas?
Yeah. One. My partner.
Well, that's it, then. It's got to be.
But the girl, she doped you. That was a hard way to get the money from you.
Listen, I've got an idea, but I'm a little cramped for room. Some of your partner's boys, particularly a guy named Tony, are glued to me. Get some of your boys to shake them off, and I'll bring that money back to you.
How do you know where it is?
I know.
Okay, Holiday. But remember, fast play, and I'll find you if it takes the rest of my life.
It's a deal. Now, how about the boys?
They won't follow you. Marty, that guy will leave my office. Some mugs are tailing him. Stop him. Got it? Good. All right, Holiday. You're on first base. Go ahead.
I was sure he'd be at the airport, and I wasn't wrong. He was sitting in the shadows on the outside. I walked over to him, and he looked up.
Holiday, I thought you would be...
Thought I'd be framed, huh, Frankie?
What are you doing here?
I've got a message from Kathy Lee.
Kathy? She's...
You ought to know you killed her.
You're crazy.
Not only that, you've got $126,000 in that bag. $126,000 that looked like easy money.
Shut up.
That money doesn't mean a thing. It's the girl who counts, the girl who was willing to do what you told her to do. The girl you triple-crossed and killed after you double-crossed your boss who bribed you to fix the wheel.
It's too bad you're so smart, Holiday.
It's too bad you led with that right, Frankie. Somebody call the police to come and clean this up.
The croupier was... Oh, please hurry, Mr. Holliday. I want to hear the ending.
All right, Susie, all right. What do you want to know?
Well, how did you guess that Kathy Lee was the croupier's girl?
Well, her locket had his picture in it.
Oh, they should have given you the money as a reward.
No, thanks, Susie. They can have it.
But there's one thing I don't understand, Mr. Holliday.
And that's?
You didn't get a tan at all. You're just as pale as when you left.
Oh, $126,000. A murder and a tan, too, she wants. Good night, Susie.
Next week, same time, Alan Ladd stars as Dan Holliday in Box 13. Alan Ladd appears through the courtesy of Paramount Pictures. Watch for him in his new picture, Saigon. Box 13 is directed by Richard Sandville, with original story by Russell Hughes, and original music composed and conducted by Rudy Schrager. The part of Susie is played by Sylvia Picker. Production supervision is by Vern Karstensen. This is a Mayfair production.
Welcome back. This is one of the great things about this show, is because of Dan Ladd being really an amateur detective. He's able to get into some scrapes that your regular private investigators just simply would not be able to do. So, this is what I don't think Philip Marlowe or Sam Spade would go for this. I do kind of wonder why it didn't occur to him to put the money in the hotel safe. Well, I guess that's one of those, well, where would the story be? But other than that, it's a very solid episode. And a lot of twists and turns here. All right, well, one other thing I noticed. I asked last week about the movie, and I noticed that it did change. The episode we had last week was promoting an entirely different movie. This one was Saigon, which was from 1948. So apparently, the one thing they did change is they did change the movies with each new show. All right, well, we do have a listener email. We're going to get to that really quick before we wrap up. While I'm getting the email pulled up, I think my mind's working like Columbo, because I just had another thought. Was I noticed him ordering, he ordered the ginger ale. And that's kind of unusual for these shows. Usually the protagonist is going to order something, a hard drink. I don't think I recall any of them so far. This is the first time I remember somebody ordering something that was non-alcoholic. Denise writes in, "Hi, Adam, I just wanted to let you know that I love your podcast concerning Dragnets and now The Great Detectives. What a great idea of having different detective series playing on the same nights every week. I've been a subscriber of Dragnet for quite some time, and having just found the Great Detectives podcast, I feel like I hit the jackpot. I'm a huge fan of mysteries, and I'm relishing each and every new episode. I can't even begin to tell you how many times I've listened to the Dragnet episodes, and I'm thrilled that I have a new series to listen to. Keep up the great work, and I love to listen to your commentary on each episode. I just voted for the Great Detectives series on Podcast Alley." Well, thank you so much, Denise, and that's a good segue to remind you to all our listeners, please go and cast your vote at podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. This is your host, Adam Graham, bringing you this week's episode of Pat Novak for Hire. Got any comments? Send them my way, box 13 at greatdetectives.net. Please become part of our Facebook group, facebook.greatdetectives.net. We got a comment here. Go ahead, an email actually comes to us from Lawrence, who's emailed the show before. He asked, "Hi Adam, I've tried to locate the Great Detectives podcast on Podcast Alley, and I cannot find it to vote for it. I can locate the Dragnet podcast for you, and I can vote for that, but I really like the Great Detectives and would like to vote for it." In answer to the question, we basically set up a redirect, because just going through and doing the search function, it's impossible to find on Podcast Alley. At least by any way I can think of. You can go to Google, put Great Detectives of Old Time Radio in, and then Podcast Alley, but it's just easier to go to podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. So that's what I encourage people to do, so they can go ahead and vote for the program. Speaking of Podcast Alley, I got a comment here off Podcast Alley. I've been a subscriber of Adam Graham's Dragnet podcast for quite a while, and I was thrilled to find he has another one featuring a different detective series each weeknight. What a great find. Mr. Graham is quite entertaining with his commentaries, and he's providing a great service to all the fans of great detective mysteries, especially me. Well, thanks so much for the comments, and I, again, encourage people to cast them, but we're going to go ahead and get into today's program. This episode of Pat Novak for Hire is Wendy Morris, and I'll go ahead and caution you, this is a little bit more violent than any of the other episodes we've had, so listener discretion is advised. But without any further ado, let's get into Wendy Morris.
Pat Novak for Hire.
Sure. I'm Pat Novak. For hire. That's what the sign out in front of my office says. Pat Novak for hire. It's up there in block letters, but down on the waterfront in San Francisco, good printing doesn't mean a thing. You get that on a death certificate. If you're trying to make a living down here, you're not going to have any standing in the community except in a police lineup. I rent boats and do anything else that goes with a weak will and a strong stomach. It's not all bad. Once in a while, something happens that makes you feel good for a moment. Like remembering somebody you kissed a long time ago. But most of the time, you buy your beer the hard way. It works out all right because most people learn to fall in love with a dollar bill and forget about trouble. And everything sounds all right, but sometimes it isn't. Like saying Happy New Year to a lifer. I found that out Wednesday night. I was sitting in the office with a sports page reading about those big tears that Washington senators were shedding when I saw Crockett Odom for the first time. He was a big red-faced guy, and the veins stood out on his face and made a pattern as if he slept on an alligator bag instead of a pillow. He walked over to the desk and started to get quiet in a loud voice.
I want to talk to you, Mr. Novak.
Go ahead, pile up a lead.
My name's Odom. You've heard of Crockett Odom?
I don't get around. Tell me about it.
I'm a lawyer, and I want you to watch a client for me. Her name is Wendy Morris.
Is she hard to watch?
You can get bloodshot eyes just looking at her. She drinks a little.
What's a little?
How should I answer that?
Any way you like. A pint, a quart. What's a little, Odom? Is she a dipso?
We'll leave it there. She can make a quart of gin disappear while anybody else is looking for the corkscrew.
Mm-hmm. What am I supposed to do, hide the bottles?
Mr. Novak, a full-grown octopus couldn't do that. I'm afraid this is more serious. It involves her husband.
Let her take a drink and lose him. It'll save you money.
It involves her husband or somebody who's supposed to be her husband.
Oh, she got a bad memory?
She's a very wealthy girl, Mr. Novak. 5 years ago, she married a man by the name of Stanley Morris. Immediately after, he went into uniform.
You make it sound selfish.
He's been gone ever since until a month ago. Spent most of that time overseas. The rest in a government hospital.
Yeah?
Now that he's back, something very peculiar has happened. I don't think the man is her husband.
Well, that's a hard part to play. Has she got any theories?
I think she suspects, too. I don't know why I feel that way. He seems to have picked up where he left off. He knows everything about her. Seems normal, but I'm sure the man is an imposter.
Look, Odom, find a corner and patch up that story. You can't get that nearsighted on 5 years' booze.
You don't understand, Mr. Novak. He was seriously injured. That makes identification hard.
You think Stanley Morris is dead?
I think he died somewhere along the line. This man took his place.
That's a lot of trouble just to share a board and room with a boozer.
Not if you can share it with someone else on her money. That's why I want you to watch her, particularly tonight.
Why tonight? Is Stanley full of temper?
It's been leading up to this. He wants her to go to a gambling club. And I know he's too friendly with the owner of the club. I want you to go along as a friend.
Now, look, mister, I wouldn't go as her friend to a masquerade ball. If you're making a deal, make it out in the open.
Do it your own way, Novak. It's $300. Earn it any way you can.
Yeah. Where's the club?
She'll take you. Just pick her up at this address.
Mm-hmm. Does she know about it?
She'll understand you. In fact, that's the only risk you run. I told you she drinks most of the time. But when she doesn't, you're the type she gobbles up.
Yeah, I'll bring some cheese instead.
That won't do any good. It's not the flavor she likes, Mr. Novak. It's the crunch. Good night.
When Odom walked out of there, I knew he was the kind of a guy who'd put the wolf at your door if he could get one wholesale. On the way up the pier, he stopped and looked out at the bay as if he intended to do away with it before morning. And then he turned and disappeared around the corner. Well, I sat there for a while, and I went over his story. I was sure it wouldn't hold any more water than a gross of holes, but I had no way of checking. Finally, about 7 o'clock, I closed the office, and I went by the address he gave me. It was a modernistic apartment up on Telegraph Hill, one of those places where they let a guy out of the basement long enough to paint murals on the front. This one had a guy waving a blonde wig in front of a tired old monk named Faust. Wendy Morris' apartment was up on the second floor, and when I rang the buzzer, she opened the door with a nice, easy motion, like a cat getting ready to eat its young. I could see right away what Odom was talking about. If you ever build a house, you'd want somebody like her in the blueprints. She leaned against the doorway, and she was wearing a crepe evening gown that was supposed to let you know that nature had given her a square deal. She didn't say anything at first. She just kept fingering a glass and looking at you as if you knew she was full of gin and comfort.
It makes a nice rattle. Are you Mr. Novak?
Yeah, I rattle, too. Invite me in.
I'll bet you do. Come in.
Yeah.
So you are paid to like me. Will a drink help, Mr. Novak?
Yeah.
Sit down. I'll get some soda.
No, this'll do.
What did Crockett tell you?
He said you got thirsty.
Did he mention men? Crockett thinks they're related. His sole concession to the medical profession.
You mentioned your husband. Where is he?
I thought that was the problem.
Sounds phony. There must be a way to spot old husbands.
How?
I wouldn't know. Do you think Stanley Morris is dead?
I don't know, Mr. Novak.
Do you care either way?
As long as I'm safe, no. Stanley was no bargain.
Why'd you marry him?
I don't know. I suppose I confused a hangover with love.
Well, he sounds exciting.
About as lively as a dish rag in a steam bath. It doesn't make any difference now, Mr. Novak. I'm frightened. You've got to help me.
You're in for $300, that's all. Where is this gambling joint?
Out on Gary Boulevard. It's called the Mother Lode. The sense of humor belongs to Frankie Fannin.
Is he funny enough to deal with Stanley?
I don't know. Stanley's been out there every night for 2 weeks. Now he's forcing me to go. There must be a reason.
There must be a reason for what?
Don't tempt me, Stanley. This is Mr. Novak, my husband.
I never heard of you, Novak.
You got me worried.
He's a friend of mine.
What does he do, drive a beer truck?
My husband is being subtle, Mr. Novak. He's going with us, Stan.
We don't know anybody well enough to take him with us.
You don't have to feel burdened. I'll take him.
Aren't you wearing out that leash?
Now, look, mister, I'm here on a straight deal. Cash and carry, and your credit's through. From now on, that mouth of yours costs you dough.
Go ahead and pout, Stan. You look better with your lip turned in.
All right, if you like him, he goes. I'll have to make another reservation. Hand me the phone, Novak.
Yeah. Here.
Thanks. Let's go, Wendy. Your friend backed out.
I hope they got a good price for my head, because when I started down, shoulder blades were the best I could do for height. I rolled over once, and then I stretched out on the floor as hard as a piece of chewing gum on the theater seat. I don't know how long I chased that woman in the bathing suit. Must have been about an hour when the phone began to ring. I tried to get up once or twice, but I couldn't get the boxcar off my chest, and the phone kept ringing like a piece of crystal in a hailstorm. I finally made a ladder out of my knees and got to the phone. Yeah.
How's your head?
It's a little right. What's on your mind?
Something's gone wrong. I have to meet you.
Not at these prices.
I just got a message from Crockett Odom. I'm leaving now. I want you to meet me in room 314 of the Galbraith Hotel.
Where is it?
A third-rate trap on Powell Street. It's important. Will you come?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry about your head. I'll have to rub the bruise for you.
Wait till I get there. You can rub one of your own. She was right about that hotel. In a good season, they couldn't have drawn trenchant mice. I got there about 9:45. I rode up to room 314. There was nobody there. So I sat down and started to wait. The floor was quiet, except down at the end of the hall, somebody was playing a phonograph record. The music was thin but loud, and I knew they were old records, way back when this bird Bix was a man instead of a memory. It stopped after a while, and I looked at my watch. It was after 10, so I left the hotel and I went out to the gambling joint. I toured the room, but I couldn't find Wendy or Stan. I got a guy at the window, and he remembered somebody like Wendy, so I asked about her. He just pointed over at Frankie Fannin's office and went on making change. I crossed over and knocked at the door. The guy that opened it had a face like 3 pounds of warm putty. It was moist and pink, and you got the idea they put the color in with a spray gun. And if his heart was made of the same stuff, they drained the oil out first.
Yeah?
My name's Novak.
Who's arguing?
I want to talk to you.
Yeah?
Where's Wendy Morris?
I don't know.
She was in here tonight.
It's a jail term. I don't follow women home.
Am I supposed to buy that?
Look, Junior, I don't care whether you live or die. I haven't seen her.
How about her husband?
He owes me dough.
What else?
Ask his wife. He's an IOU to me. I don't know what you're doing here, but you better make your point fast.
Now, look, Fannin, if you got a party, I don't want to blow out the candles, but I want some answers.
Yeah?
She got boosted in here tonight. Why?
I brought her in for word games. I told her if her husband didn't square his fill, I'd work him into hamburger.
Yeah?
She offered to bring the buns. Now, that's all the talk you get, mister. Tip the girl on your way out. I need the money. Come in.
Choose up and tell me which one's Novak.
I am. What's on your mind?
The other guy's Lucky. I'm Craig from Homicide.
Where's Hellman?
He's got a mouth full of canary, Novak.
That's right. I just left room 314 of the Galbraith Hotel.
So did I.
2 of us made it then. The girl didn't.
Novak, he's trying to tell you Wendy Morris is dead.
How do you know she's dead?
It's the only reason cops drool.
You want to see her, Novak?
No. She was better alive.
Come on down anyway. Maybe I didn't try hard enough.
walked out of there, I felt like a voice teacher with adenoids. Whoever Craig was, he was smart, and he tagged all the bases because as we moved through the lobby, he motioned to me, and the desk clerk nodded. Well, I didn't worry about that desk clerk because he hadn't said no for years. But when we got to room 314, I needed China Passage. There were 3 or 4 of Craig's men grouped along the dim hall like dirty shadows, and inside, Wendy Morris was stretched out looking in the wrong direction. There was a white sheet draped over, and I wondered where the hotel had borrowed that, but Craig wanted to talk.
You must have had a big beef, Novak.
Sorry, we were friends.
I'll bet that was fun.
I was supposed to meet her here. She didn't show.
The desk clerk says she did.
Not while I was here. I was in that gambling joint by 10:30.
The desk clerk says you asked about Wendy Morris. Then you came up here and killed her. That's the way I'm going to book you.
Check on her husband. You can fit him in near the top of the list.
She got one? It's a lot of blonde hair to keep indoors.
Huh?
Good blondes run like salmon.
Wait a minute, Craig. Give me that sheet. Well.
Yeah?
Craig, you better not book me for Wendy Morris.
Huh?
If you do, you'll mix up all the on-duty angels because somebody killed the wrong woman. This isn't Wendy Morris.
You must be wrong. How do you know?
How does anybody know? They look different. They got different personalities. Take your pick, Craig, but somebody got the wrong woman.
Take another look.
I don't need another with Wendy. The first look's for names and faces.
Yeah?
If you take a second look, mister, it's for love. I guess Craig liked to pick his dead because when he found out the woman on the floor was somebody else, he started to shake a little and his mouth hung open like a broken screen door. I didn't blame him much. I tried to think back and piece it together, but it wouldn't work out. It almost made sense, like the broken phrases of an old conversation, but not enough of it came back, and, well, there was still something missing. What happened to Wendy Morris, and how about this girl on the floor? Where did she get her drag with heaven? I looked down at her again. She was pretty, if you like quiet girls. She had a vacant look in her eyes as if the brains had checked out without letting her know. And the color was starting to leave her face. The light was bad, and you had to look close to see her skin. There were little splotches of pink, and the rest was white, like shrimp that haven't been boiled long enough. Craig was worried, and that's something he couldn't hide.
Who is she, Novak?
I don't know, Craig. We didn't meet her soon enough to know. You should have checked.
The hotel register says Wendy Morris.
Who read it for you? Oh, you're tough, Craig. I'll bet you got the wino scared stiff.
Keep on talking. I'll get you some help. Come on in. He wants to make a statement. On the bed, Novak.
Where'd you get your boys, Craig? They look tired.
On the bed, Novak. All right, Joe, take his arms.
Yeah.
The other two, hold his head back against the bed.
Okay.
Where's Wendy Morris, Novak?
I don't know, Copper. You sure you're from homicide?
So it's against the law. Don't tell anybody. Now make a statement, Novak.
Yeah. Here's a statement about you, Craig.
We'll find out downtown. You can save some teeth. Where's the other girl?
I don't know.
Hold him up. Yeah. Where's Wendy Morris?
Craig, you can go.
Put his head against the bed.
It's for exercise now, Craig.
All right, he's not a season pass. We don't have to hang on to him.
Craig's boys left me hanging on the foot of the bed with somebody's dirty towel and an old garter the maid forgot to pick up last month. I felt my way down to the lobby and into the street, and most of the time, one question kept going through my mind. Craig was going to run me in before. Why had he changed his mind? Well, I found out when I started to turn the corner. Craig had a tail on me, and he was real hard to spot, like a red Nash at the top of the mark. He moved out from under a light near the pool room on the corner, and I watched him in the windows as we walked along. After a while, I quit worrying about him because I knew in a pinch he couldn't follow a conversation with a printed form. Well, I had a lot of ground to cover, so I looked up Jocko Madigan. He's a good guy, and he was a smart one, too. Until he found out if your eyes get red enough, you don't need rose-colored glasses. I finally found him at the cafe house, as tight as a tennis racket in the rain.
God rest ye, merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay.
Jocko, I want to talk to you.
Some belated Christmas carols, Patsy. The piano player quit and everybody else dropped out, so I'm doing it a cappella by myself.
All right, Jocko.
Christmas eluded me, Patsy. I got up through Christmas Eve, and then I seem to have missed Christmas entirely. Did they hold it this year?
Well, it wouldn't happen if you'd get up in the morning.
Oh, I refuse to get up early, Patsy. I refuse to get up in the morning until the streets have been aired. The only things that should be around at that hour are peasants and a bunch of random dew.
Jocko, will you listen? I'm in trouble.
I'm not surprised, because you're a counterfeit, Patsy. You're a piece of plate in a room full of sterling. You're like some of the rest of these people running around in a hurry.
Jocko, please.
Just plunging into anything. Look at the papers. Some people have spent years shooting a rocket 110 miles into the air. What's the use?
Will you listen?
What's the use? When you get 110 miles up, all you can do is turn around and come on back down again. We're killing time 110 miles in the air instead of learning to spend it down here.
All right.
Oh, it's depressing, Patsy. Running around in a frenzy like a rooster in a barnyard full of ducks. I'm ready to take to drink.
Are you all through, Jocko?
Yes, humanity's a tough life. What kind of trouble?
I bought a murder rap for $300.
Well, if it's a bargain, why complain? Who's dead?
I don't know who she is. Homicide found her in a hotel on Powell Street. I tagged by before the murder.
Serves her right. If I were a woman, I wouldn't trust you in the middle of Stanford Stadium with 80,000 people.
It was the wrong woman. It was supposed to be a gal named Wendy Morris, but she didn't show.
Oh, that was shrewd of her.
I was hired by a lawyer named Crockett Odom to watch her.
Why?
She's a dipso.
She must have some faults.
Odom suspects her husband. He was in uniform, and now that he's back, Odom figures he's a fraud out for the girl's money.
Can't the girl tell the difference?
She's not sure.
I don't think she was observant.
Now, look, this is a big story, Jocko. I can't fill in all the holes. You've got to help me. I want you to check on Crockett Odom, will you?
I'll need some money.
Oh, you'll booze it away. Now, hurry, Jocko. If you need money, get a job.
Oh, I can't go to work, Patsy. I'm a victim of my own conscience.
Yeah?
I'm stuck with a dilemma. I'm willing to go to work, but I work too cheaply. And on the other hand, I'll not support slave labor. So it's morally impossible for me to go to work. Good night, lover.
It was about 11:30 when I left Jocko, and the two beatings began to catch up with me. I had enough headache to pass out to a Bay Meadows crowd on a bad day. The tail behind me began to look tired, so I dropped by headquarters to give him a rest. I asked for the head of homicide, but the desk told me that Hellman was on his honeymoon, and they kind of laughed when they said it, as if they thought he got the girl there on a bench warrant. All they'd done at headquarters was identify the dead woman. Her name was Emily Van Kirk, and she had no record. I dropped by the hotel, and the first break showed down there. The desk clerk knew about Emily Van Kirk. He'd mixed the rooms up, and he'd put Wendy in the wrong one. That meant that maybe she was at the hotel after all. It also meant that Emily was in the clear. She was just a girl on her way to Seattle, and she got a longer ride than she paid for. I called Wendy's, but I couldn't get an answer, so I dropped by my place to wait for Jocko. Stanley Morris was there, chewing his fingernails, and when I walked in, he was up to the wristwatch.
Mr. Novak, where's my wife? You're hiding her.
She's good enough to hide, but this isn't the night.
Well, where is she? She must have gone to you after that hotel.
How do you know she was there? Did you drop by, too?
Doesn't make any difference.
Well, it makes a big difference to me. We're all out of phones. Now tell me about that hotel.
Crockett Odom told me to come there.
Why?
I don't know. I was supposed to be there at 10:30. It was some kind of a crazy scheme.
There's a dead girl mixed up in one.
Sorry it wasn't Wendy. Odom tried to break up this marriage. I wish he had.
You sound feeble, mister.
You don't know her the way I do. She's a cold-blooded animal. The only cold-blooded animal that doesn't bear fur.
You're building a case.
I don't know what'd have her around. I suppose you would. She has a certain localized beauty you'd go for, but nobody else would have her. They'd find out what she is, a puff adder with a good figure.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Huh?
We got company. Somebody's coming in the door. Watch it. There goes the light.
All right, stand back.
He couldn't have died any faster with a priority. I got to the door and threw on the light switch, but whoever it was had gone, and the hall was dark. When I got back to Stan, he was lying there like a well-trained sponge. He wasn't a good enough guy to bleed in the living room, so I dragged him into the kitchen and left by the back way. I had to get word to Jocko, so I left a message at his place telling him to get in touch with me at Wendy's. I went up there to sit on her doorstep and wait if it took all night. I wasn't going to freeze, though, because she opened the door as soon as I knocked. She was still wearing that crepe gown, and she was yawning and stretching her arms. Oh, you might not want to bring her home to Mother, but you'd want to start anyway.
Do you always look at women this way, Patsy? I feel like Eve.
And I'll bet you get a kitchen full of apples. Do I argue or come in?
You may argue, but do it in here.
Yeah. When'd you get back?
Why?
Somebody just killed Stan.
If you're sure, the drinks are on me.
He didn't like you either.
We'd be even if he had anything to start with. Don't ever marry, Patsy.
Now, look, lady, I'm nursing a murder rap, and I need some answers. Was Stan a phony?
He's the same guy I married, if that's what you mean.
You weren't sure 4 hours ago.
I wanted an answer then.
What kind?
You're too far ahead, Patsy. Come to a trot and have a drink.
Lady, has anybody ever told you about a slow burn? I got one now.
I'll bet you have, darling.
Oh, this room isn't big enough for games, baby.
Come here, Patsy.
Go find a guy with a bag of wild oats.
Stop shadow boxing, Patsy.
All right, baby.
Patsy.
That's what makes the poor so happy. They don't have phones. Yeah.
Patsy, this is Jocko.
What'd you find out?
Crockett Odom is in love with Wendy Morris.
Does it go both ways?
Well, different rate of exchange. I got something else, too.
Yeah?
Her will is a big temptation.
Go ahead.
If she bows out, all the dough goes to her husband. Maybe the guy is a fraud.
Oh, he's going to have it straightened out. What else?
The funny part of the will.
Uh-huh.
If they're both dead, all the dough goes to Crockett Odom. You better see him in a hurry.
Well, that doesn't make sense. If he killed her and got all that dough, it'd cost him that much to get another like her.
Maybe not.
Uh-huh. You haven't seen her, Jocko. He wouldn't pass that up. She's nice and speedy.
Oh, I can explain that. When you're over 50, you don't mind the speed. It's the freewheeling you hate to think about.
When Jocko hung up, I knew we had a good pair of seats. That story of Stan's finally made sense. There was only one reason why he could have been called there at 10:30, and for the first time, I tumbled why Craig had let me go back in that hotel room. Everything was right in place, like a mixmaster in a bride's kitchen. I dropped by headquarters and left a note, and then the girl and I ran into Craig down at the desk. I briefed him on what had happened, and we rode up to Crockett Odom's apartment. When we got to the living room, things turned stormy.
Hello, Novak. It's too late to start a party.
Oh, you're going to like this one, Odom.
That's right, darling. You'll love it. This is Craig from Homicide.
He wants you for murder.
It doesn't sound right, Craig.
Novak's calling it. See him.
I talked to Stan before he died. He tipped your mitt, Crockett.
He couldn't tip a water glass.
He was smart enough to know you sent for him. That's why he didn't show at 10:30.
You better have it in writing.
No, I don't need it that way. I got Craig. He won't let you out that easy.
What's he talking about, Craig?
Homicide will shake him down too fast. You're with the walking dead now, Craig. I left a note. They know you killed the girl.
Are you crazy, Craig, to come up here?
I can't argue now. He's too lucky, Odom.
I got all sevens tonight, Craig. Crockett Odom sold you bad goods. He did everything wrong.
Thanks, Odom. I'm going to leave you, but don't let the bag get too heavy.
Now, wait a minute, Craig. You're not going to let me hang for this.
You won't. They burn in this state.
Stay away from that door, Craig.
Sorry, Odom. You dealt me in, but I got bad cards. I want to see you play them alone.
Can you get by this gun?
I'll make a try. Hang on to your skin. Give me a hand, Novak.
Yeah, anything to help you die. Here.
How's Odom?
He'll keep.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Novak. What did I do wrong?
Everything. But mostly when you let me go up in that hotel room.
Yeah. I should have pinched you then. I'm a tender-hearted guy.
You're a bum, Craig. I can move you down a step lower even. You're a liar. I checked. You're not working for the city. They never heard of you downtown.
I'm not going to make it, Novak. Lay my head down.
Yeah. I'll put it down easy. Goodbye, Craig. I hope you have a long night. made the morning he had to cheat. They patched up Odom and got most of the story out of him. Jocko was right. Odom got tired of chasing the girl and went after the money instead. He drummed up that phony story to plant a reason for a quarrel, and then he tried to pay it off in that hotel room. He offered a cut to Craig for the heavy-duty work. Wendy was supposed to show up at 10:15. Craig would kill her and wait. When Stan showed up at 10:30, Craig was supposed to stage a fight and kill him. That way, he'd be in the clear, and so would Odom. They'd say it was a husband and wife quarrel, and Craig had a phony shield to back him up. Craig dreamed up that story about being a cop. But the whole scheme went haywire when the desk clerk mixed up the rooms. Craig killed the wrong woman, and Stan got there late. That's why he got scared when it turned out to be somebody else, so he let me go. Odom was afraid that Stan had showed up and knew the story, so he had a ticket right away. The guy who tailed me was handy for that. When did I first tumble to something wrong? When I was sure that Crockett Odom had told a lie. He said the girl was a dipso, but when I got there, she was drinking soda with her whiskey. And a good dipso won't waste that much time. Well, it worked out all right. Hellman was on his honeymoon, so he didn't have any questions. But I'll bet his wife did.
Novak for Hire was previously released by ABC, the American Broadcasting Company, for listeners in the United States, and rebroadcast for our men and women overseas. This is the United States Armed Forces Radio Service, the voice of information and education.
Welcome back. I get the sense listening here there may have been some last-minute alteration to the script. Because the thing that doesn't make sense now is the idea of Craig as not being a real police officer. Well, if Craig wasn't a real police officer, then who were those guys who were holding Novak down and helping Craig beat up Novak? And I get the impression that it may have just been something where it was just a crooked police officer, but at last second, for public relations reasons, what have you, they made a decision to go ahead and change that plot line. But they didn't quite tie all the strings together. That, and in an earlier episode, Hellman said he was a family man, and they have him going on a honeymoon. Well, continuity, perhaps. The only other thing is I've often thought that some of these episodes were originally written during the San Francisco run, and they just went ahead and they recycled the scripts for the national run. That was the case with Dixie Gillian. And some of them, I think, were probably written by Breen as he was maturing as a writer. So it could have been that. He could have forgotten, and as a writer, I've done this, I've forgotten that I've done certain things with a character, unless I'm reading back through it. Particularly if it's been a few years since you touch a story, you can forget some of those details. But a couple little loose strings here and there, but not a huge deal. Great quotes, and another episode of Pat Novak in the books. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, bringing you another episode of Let George Do It. Last weekend, I actually went ahead and posted my full review of the Radio Archive set, so you can check that out over at greatdetectives.net. Got any comments, send them to me at box13@greatdetectives.net. Please cast your vote for us. Again, once a month, I encourage you to do it. podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. Please join our Facebook group, facebook.greatdetectives.net, and remember to fill out our survey, survey.greatdetectives.net. But actually, we've got a very limited amount of ado today. I just want to remind you, as you make your plans to travel in the new year, remember this name, Johnny Dollar Air. Johnny Dollar Air is Priceline.com. Which gives you great deals on hotels, airline tickets, cruises, rental cars. As you make your travel plans, go to JohnnyDollarAir.com, and when you make a reservation, you support the great detectives of old-time radio. All right, well, we're actually just going to get into today's episode. Don't have a whole lot of commentary. Today's episode is called The Spirit World, here on the Great Detectives of Old-Time Radio.
Standard of California, on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West, invite you to Let George Do It. Another adventure of George Valentine.
Personal notice. If it's so fantastic you can do nothing about it yourself, then you've got a job for me, George Valentine. Write full details.
Dear Mr. Valentine, the writing and rewriting of this letter has proved one thing to me, that I can't find the words to convey my desperation. Somehow, in a way I can't explain, my life has been touched by evil, pure, undiluted evil. There is something here too strange for me to comprehend, something unworldly
almost. It is not only for my sake that I ask for your assistance, but for the continued sanity of my fiancé. Accept the enclosed check as a retainer, Mr. Valentine, and please call on me at once. And it's signed, Gilbert Dressler. Oh, this doesn't make sense, George.
Well, it makes enough sense to show that Gilbert Dressler is pretty panicky.
I know, George, but there's something too strange to comprehend, unworldly. Sounds like he's having trouble with banshees.
Well, whatever his source of trouble, it's our source of income, Brooksy.
But how do people let themselves get into this kind of situation?
This kind of situation pays the rent. So let's go find out what's on Gilbert Dressler's unhappy mind.
In my 10 years on the desert, Mr. Valentine, I've witnessed events that would freeze the very marrow in your bones.
Yes, I'm not doubting your word, Mr. Dressler.
Terrifying events. Things that are only spoken about in whispers, behind locked doors.
Yes, but let's be a little more specific.
Magic. Voodoo, if you will. An evil beyond evil. They're right here in your own city.
But why are you hiring us?
Yes, Mr. Dressler. You mentioned something about a fiancée in your letter. What about her?
Yes, Gabrielle. I love her.
Oh, we're sure of that, Mr. Dressler, but you also wrote something about fearing for her continued sanity. What makes you think her sanity won't continue?
Margot.
Margot? What's that supposed to mean to me?
Oh, forgive me. I was referring to Madame Margot. She claims she's a medium. I claim she's a purveyor of black magic.
Well, now we're getting somewhere. You're trying to tell us Gabrielle, your fiancée, is somehow being influenced by this Madame Margot.
Yes.
How?
Why, she's taking all her money away from her.
Oh, how long has this been going on?
Since Gabrielle's mother, Mrs. Turner, died.
Oh, what happened?
Mary Turner was cleaning her hunting rifle, and it went off. Very unfortunate. The sporting world lost a great devotee because of Miss Turner's accident.
All right, what do you want us to do?
Expose Madame Margot. That's what I want you to do.
Expose her?
Certainly. I've arranged for you to visit Madame Margot this very afternoon. Here, this is her card. And tonight, you shall attend a séance at the Turner Mansion.
A séance? Oh, George, there's nothing I like better than an evening cavorting with the spirit world.
Okay, Brooksy, we'll give it a whirl. I never saw a ghost yet who didn't scream when it was pinched.
There's Madame Margot's place, George, 214.
Yep, I'll pull up in front.
Well, one thing I'll say for George, she's not squeamish about operating in a tough neighborhood.
Uh-huh. Well, looks all very proper, Brooksy, even to the neat little sign on the window. Madame Margot, clairvoyant and mentalist, seances by appointment. Okay, let's go.
Well, ring the bell, George.
Oh, that's a very good idea.
Oh, great. Listen to that local color, will you?
In a joint like this, I'll settle for nothing less than a swami.
Yeah.
You have been expected. Please enter, Sahib.
Sahib?
This way, if you please. Madame Margot offers herself to meditation. However, she will receive you shortly.
Straighten your turban, George. Do you mind if we sit down, Mr.
Hasim. Upon this level, that is the name by which I am known. Please be seated.
Yes, thanks.
And now Hasim will leave you. Seek to attune yourself to the vibration of the sphere.
Oh, sure, we'll do just that, Hasim.
Well, there's your Swami, George. Wonder what bottle he floated out of.
I'll bet when that towel around his head is unwrapped, it reads Oasis Motel.
Hey, this Madame Margot must do all right. Look at the jade vases, carved teak. Look at this rug.
Oh, Brooksy, for a candy bar in North Africa during the war, I could have filled a barracks bag with this junk.
Junk? Why, some of these things are priceless,
Bargain
George.
basement gadgets, Brooksy, part of a pitch.
Well, I don't want to argue with you, but
Look, Claire, I haven't heard of a setup like this yet that wasn't phony. A shrewd operator in a bathrobe and a crystal ball can make a fortune feeding customers the things they want to hear.
Yes, but this Madame Margot is supposed to be uncanny.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what Mr. Dressler seems to think.
Well, I don't know what her act is, Brooksy, but I'm making book that Margot's got a huge investment in trapdoors and mirrors. And one of these days, she's going to trip over her own ectoplasm.
George.
Huh?
I know, of course, that Mr. Gilbert Dressler sent you to me. He gave no reason for the arrangement except that you were his friend.
Oh, well, Mr. Dressler just likes to be mysterious. I understand that 10 years on the desert can do that to a person.
He is obsessed with the idea that I bring harm to Gabrielle Turner. He is a stupid man.
Yeah. Well, what about this crystal ball here? What can it tell you about me?
Very well. Seek yourself in the past and the future. Margot will seek with you. Believe Margot, and the dimness in the crystal will be swept away and will become as a sudden burst of light, revealing all. See? Even now the shadow's clear. The image asserts itself. There has been violence and terror in your life.
Well, I can't see you wrong about that.
As if many men had come together to do you harm, in a vastness too great for the eye to scan.
A vastness?
In a desert, perhaps. Many men and many machines. Yes, it is a desert. And you are wearing a uniform.
George, that's amazing.
Yeah. Can you tell me where this desert is? In what country?
Oh, it is plain. Should it startle you that I know? To Margot, the crystal has no secrets. It is the Sahara.
North Africa, huh?
Of course, Mr. Valentine. What made you ask that?
Oh, come off it, kiddo. How gullible do you expect one man to be?
What are you talking about, Mr. Valentine?
Madame Margot, if you get paid for this sort of thing, I'm going out and rent a sarong and a Turkish towel. That's all I need for an easy life. That and a detective phone with a hidden mic.
Get out of here.
Now, wait a minute. I've got a couple of other things that I would...
Get out of here. Hasim!
Why don't you let that poor guy alone, Margot? Making him stand behind those drapes all this time?
Perhaps one day you will laugh yourself to death on your poor humor, Mr. Valentine.
George, he's got a gun.
Don't worry, Brooksy. Madame Margot can't afford to get rough. This kind of melodrama sometimes leads to scandal. That wouldn't be good business for her.
He wearies me with his glibness, Hakim.
You should have kept looking in your crystal ball, Margot. Then you could have warned your number one boy. Always keep that gun close to his side.
Fool.
Let's get out of here, Brooksy.
Okay, George.
You will regret this.
Oh, look, honey, don't go dramatic on me. Save those pear-shaped tones for Gabrielle Turner.
I don't understand, George. How did she know you were in North Africa?
Because she had us tuned in with her little detector phone before she came into the room.
Oh.
Brooksy, when I was telling you about it, I lied to you purposely. I saw North Africa once from an airplane, 10,000 feet up at nighttime.
Well, now that we know that Margot reads past, presents, and futures by direct wire, what are we going to do?
Have dinner, Brooksy.
Oh, fine.
And we've got a date with a few assorted ghosts.
Oh, fine.
But how about the rest of these people here, Mr. Dressler? Are they friends of the family, too?
A cult of vultures, Mr. Valentine. Parasites of the late Maddie Turner, whose interest in spiritualism is heightened by the free champagne served before every seance. Oh, Gabrielle. Gabrielle, my dear. This is Mr. Valentine. And Miss Brooks.
How do you do?
How do you do?
I suppose you're welcome here, both of you. Even though you've come to sneer at us.
Oh, I wouldn't put it that way, Gabrielle. We're just here to take a look.
There have been scoffers before. Please understand that you've been invited only because Gilbert insisted upon it.
Gabrielle? Oh, there you are. Have you explained to Gilbert's guests how stupid they are?
Hey, where do you get all your information, lady?
I am Gabrielle's aunt, young lady, Vida Patterson.
Oh.
I happen to concern myself with the caliber of people with whom Gabrielle is forced to associate.
What makes you think Miss Brooks is a bad influence, Miss Patterson?
Oh, Gabrielle is emotionally high-strung. People like you, people from the outside, upset her.
Ah, from the outside.
My dear, the rest of the party is going into the sanctuary. Madame Margot's waiting.
Oh, George, not again.
Yep. Let's give the old gal another rumble.
Oh. Hey, George. The hair on the back of my neck is going to look funny with my permanent. This thing is scary.
Yeah, with all the trimmings. This sanctuary is a great backdrop for Dracula. Candlelight and polka music for a vampire.
Have the courtesy to be quiet. Nothing must disturb Madame Margot while she reaches her control.
Control? What's that?
A voice, Miss Brooks. Margot's link with the spirit world. You'll see, it's very weird. The voice with which Margot speaks will not be her voice at all.
Oh, Gilbert, why did you bring these people here?
Hush, child, hush.
There are alien presences here. Contact has been difficult, but there is a message to one who has traveled from a far place to be here.
George.
Listen. Listen. So many years. So much time. Gilbert. Listen to me, Gilbert.
It's Janice. This is impossible.
Please listen to me, Gilbert.
Janice, what are you doing here? I thought you ran off to Cairo with Cecil.
Rid yourself of those who would bring harm to Margot. They are evil. Remember, Gilbert, I've always known what's best for you, my dear.
You haven't changed a bit, have you, Janice? Always showing up at the wrong time and knowing what's best. Janice, go away.
Get rid of them. Get rid of those who do us harm.
You never told me about her, Gilbert. You never mentioned a girl named Janice.
She was always interfering. Always. I hardly expected her to pop up again, my dear.
There is another message here from one who has newly passed over. She is suffering greatly.
Oh, no.
She has been murdered, shot. She suffers from the anguish of knowing her murder.
Oh, no. I couldn't help it. I couldn't.
Gabrielle, what is it, child?
Her murderer has not been avenged. There is blood on the hands of one who has shed it. Listen.
She is trying.
Stop it! Make her leave me alone. I killed her. Of course I killed her. Leave me alone, all of you.
Oh, George. I've never seen anything like this in my life.
Yeah, this time, Brooksy, the spirits had the right word for it. Murder.
We'll return to tonight's adventure of George Valentine in just a moment. Meanwhile, a word about problems, major and minor. You know, a ring that refuses to come off a finger may seem like a major problem, but usually a bit of soap and water does the trick. Stuck rings in an automobile engine would be something else again, and could be very costly, in fact. But today, compounded RPM motor oil keeps the danger of stuck piston rings at just about zero. Even more important, the added compounds in RPM put a stop to the biggest bugaboo of engine wear, internal rust. They also prevent crankcase foaming and stop the formation of gum and lacquer in your car's engine. And a cleaner engine system means extra life for your car. Add up all these advantages of RPM motor oil, and it's easy to see why motorists choose RPM 2-to-1 over any other motor oil in the West. Try this premium quality motor oil tomorrow. Get RPM at standard stations and independent Chevron gas stations where they say and mean, we'll take better care of your car. And now back to tonight's adventure of George Valentine. Well, there's an old saying that murder will out, but when it comes pointing its finger from the spirit world, then George finds himself tangled in one of the strangest cases he's ever come across. And at the precinct house, the day after the seance, Lieutenant Riley puts it this way.
Valentine, ever since I heard that girl confess to murder while she was talking to a ghost, I've just been breathless waiting for you to drop around.
Yeah, it's a weirdie, isn't it, Lieutenant?
Well, maybe your boys just didn't feel like being clever the day Mrs. Turner was murdered. Is that why you called it a hunting accident?
Now, look, Miss Brooks, I'm not perfect like your boyfriend Valentine.
And I'd be the first one to admit that. But as a matter of fact, I personally contribute to the support of you guys, a little thing called taxes. I'm just perfect enough to want a little action for my money.
Valentine, 3 months ago, we were called in by Beta Patterson to investigate the death of her sister, Mattie Turner. We called it an accident because that's the way the setup looked. Because there wasn't any reason to call it murder.
Well, whatever happened to that suspicious nature of yours, Lieutenant?
Yeah. A prominent society woman is found dead, shot. A woman who surrounds herself with a house full of sponging friends. Don't you remember what your correspondence course says about a situation like that?
Look. When a person is found dead with her finger on the trigger, we consider the reports of ballistics, medical examiner, and a dozen other experts. Then we fumbling police arrive at certain conclusions. In the death of Mrs. Turner, that conclusion was accidental death.
Hear, hear.
Bravo, Lieutenant. But how could so many people fumble about the same thing?
Yeah.
Does that confession mean that Gabriella's going to stand trial for murder, Lieutenant?
Well, I doubt it. In that household of crazy people, she's the squirreliest of the lot. Unless her Aunt Mrs. Patterson isn't just a little bit ahead of her.
Then Gabrielle will be committed to an institution.
Yep. She's home now under the care of a physician and under police guard. She can't even remember confessing, much less how or why she killed anybody.
Uh-huh. You wouldn't mind if Claire and I dropped in on the Turner family, would you, Lieutenant?
Sure, go ahead. You'll be in good company. But take my advice and hide when the wagon comes. Those young interns sometimes have trouble figuring who fits the straitjacket.
Lieutenant, I secretly love all men who say nice things like that.
Oh, it's you two. I was beginning to hope that I'd only hired you in a dream.
Look, Gilbert, let's both get real grown up and face facts. You really did hire me, and we're both stuck.
I'm not in the habit of paying people who bungle their jobs. It must be quite obvious that I don't need your alleged services any longer.
But we haven't finished our job, Mr. Dressler.
So if you will return my fee, which you have not earned...
Oh, yeah. Well, let's chat, Gilbert. Mind if we come inside?
I certainly do.
Thanks a lot. Close the door, Brooksy. Now, look, Gilbert, you hired me to do a job. I'm not backing out of it. Why should you?
You admit you failed, don't you?
You don't have much room to talk, Mr. Dressler. Who was that Janice you were talking to last night?
Janice is dead. She died nearly 10 years ago.
10 years? Then how did she...
I dislike to say it, but even I am now convinced that Margot is not a fraud. How could she have known about Janice?
Oh, it's very simple. You blurted out Janice's name as soon as Margot began to broaden her age.
Yeah, it's a good thing Margot didn't drop her H's, Mr. Dressler. You might have come up with the name of some little barmaid in Soho.
You're not very amusing, young lady.
Now, what about Gabrielle? Where is she?
They've taken her away, Mr. Valentine. Poor girl. I was deeply attached to her.
Uh-huh. I'll bet her aunt has overcome, too.
Vida Patterson is a remarkable woman. She buries her sorrow in her books.
Books. Ledgers would be a better word. Where is she?
In the library. She explicitly informed me that she wishes to grieve.
Well, now, that's very touching. Come on, Claire.
What is it, Gilbert? I told you I wanted no interruptions unless it's absolutely necessary.
It's absolutely necessary.
Oh, it's the intruders again.
Yes, I hate to take you away from your tears, Miss Patterson, but there are a few questions I want to ask you.
And by what right? You're not the police.
Oh, this won't take long. Just a moment of your lonely time and you can go right back to eating your heart out.
What is it you want?
I want to know a little bit more about the murder of Mattie Turner. It was murder, wasn't it?
Oh, imagine the ingratitude of this child. Killing my poor sister after all the wonderful things we've done for her.
Oh, yes. She was so overcome by those wonderful things, she can't even remember killing your sister.
Oh, Gabrielle has lapses of memory. An unfortunate trait which she inherited from her father's side of the family.
Oh, well, this wealth you were talking about, what happens to that?
Oh, how could you mention money at a time like this?
Well, let's mention it anyhow. Who gets it?
Well, of course, Gabrielle inherited the mother's estate, and now that she will be declared insane, why, I suppose well, I don't know. I've never given it a thought.
No, I'll just bet you haven't. Well, thanks a lot, Miss Patterson. I just know it'll kill you every time you spend a penny of all those thousands of dollars.
Get out of here!
Miss Patterson doesn't like us, George.
Yeah, we've got crazy ideas, Brooksy. All right, come on. Let's go see whether one of them will pay off.
What makes people like that, George?
If you're talking about the zanies who wander in and out of the Turner mansion, the answer is money. From here, that's the only way the rag makes sense.
Well, I don't want to crowd you with funnies, George, but there's Hassim again.
Huh?
Yeah, he's planted up ahead there. The corner of the house this time.
How do you like that?
See him in the shadow?
Yeah. Let's find out what he's got on his mind.
Still looks sinister, even in a pinstripe suit.
Yeah. Well, Hassim, doing a little snooping on your own?
You go to great lengths to involve yourself in difficulty, my rash friend.
Brace yourself, Hassim. You're no friend of mine.
Furthermore, you are in our way.
Georgie's still got that gun.
Watch it, Brooksy. I pick up the gun quick.
Yeah, George. Here you are.
Yeah, you shouldn't carry such things around after dark, Hassim. And so it doesn't accidentally go off and hurt somebody, I'll just take out the clip. And the extra bullet in the chamber.
You will be sorry you did this.
There you are. Take your plaything. I'll keep the bullets. Now, why did Madame Margot send you here?
I know nothing.
You're so right. Okay, take off, Nature Boy. Beat it. I'm tired of playing patty cake with people out of storybooks. You know what? It adds up, Claire. It really does.
It does?
Huh? Brooksy, I want you to get down to headquarters as soon as possible. Tell Lieutenant Riley to get that whole crew together, all those pixies who were at the seance last night.
Including the spirits, George?
Including Gabrielle Turner. Tell the lieutenant to bring them all back to the sanctuary.
But why?
If there really was a murder, Brooksy, I won't be able to live with myself until I find out the reason for it. Right now, I've got a date with a crystal ball. And maybe I'll get a preview. Margot, in the jargon of the street, your chances aren't worth a dime.
Stop speaking in riddles, Mr. Valentine. What's on your mind?
You are, Margot. Madam, accessory after the fact, Margot. The fact being murder.
If I were acquainted with your brand of humor, perhaps I would be amused.
I doubt it. Look, you're worried, honey. That's why you tagged that small-time Svengali on me. You can be sent to jail for years and years, and that's really something to worry about.
What are you trying to say?
Well, I hate to sully those shell-like ears of yours with nasty words, Margot, but just take my advice and be my buddy for the next few hours.
Why do you speak to me like this, as if I'm
As if you're a phony, and you are. You can throw your voice pretty well, but last night you threw it a little too far.
What do you want me to do?
I want you to finish that seance you started. It never did get done.
But for what reason?
So you can turn state's evidence. Now, a clever girl like you can appreciate a good twist.
I think I understand.
Yes, I think you do. So let's not keep the cult waiting, Margot. Besides, Lieutenant Riley is a very impatient man.
Valentine, if you can figure out how this girl murdered Mattie Turner by asking Mattie Turner how she did it, I'm going to turn in my badge, buy a turban and a crystal ball, and apprehend criminals while I sit in my easy chair.
Just stick around, Lieutenant. This Margot will give you a lesson you'll never forget.
You know, that's the wonderful thing about being a police lieutenant. Every amateur I meet wants to give me lessons.
But Margot's no amateur. All these people think she's the greatest thing that ever happened to them. They believe whatever Margot says.
Valentine, haven't you been the cause of enough suffering for poor Miss Patterson? I feel it is my obligation to defend her against your ill manners.
Yes, and I demand to know by what authority you have entered my house. Why have you brought Gabrielle here? I'll have the law.
You already have it. Lieutenant, this is Miss Patterson. She lives here.
You got troubles, Miss Patterson?
Oh, why, no, it's just that it's Gabrielle.
Gabrielle's okay. She's in the sanctuary with the doctor. I wouldn't worry about her.
Maybe we'd better go in. Margot's had plenty of time to get wound up.
Okay.
Hello, Gabrielle. How do you feel?
I don't understand. This all happened before. Long ago. A very long time ago.
Yes, now you're all right. Just take it easy.
I really didn't mean to. I didn't hate my mother, you know.
Just sit tight, Gabrielle. And whatever happens, don't say anything. You understand? Don't say anything.
Of course. Of course, I understand. I killed her, but I didn't mean to.
Tonight, for the last time, we seek to journey together into a strange land. A strange land where familiar faces and forgotten dreams dwell without perishing. Already the vapors which cloud our way are cleared. There is someone here who is trying to get through. She wishes to speak.
Is this why you dragged me here, Valentine? I know a ventriloquist when I hear one.
You know a lot more than the rest of these people. Just get this picture,
She
Lieutenant.
loves has been grievously wronged. There is so much that stands in her way of happiness here. She wishes to speak to us. She says an injustice has been done. The way is clear. Peace.
Stop her.
Peace.
Can't you see this is a fraud? You don't know what you're doing. Send her back.
Listen.
You're breaking up the party, Miss Patterson. Why don't you relax?
Have they harmed you, Gabrielle?
Maddie.
And you, Vida? All that blood.
Oh.
Your sister's blood. Mine. Murderous.
Oh, stop it. Stop it, please.
Murderous. You watch me die. Death becomes you, my sister.
Oh, send her back. Oh, let's stop it. I killed her.
I'll take over from here, Valentine.
Well, how about that, Brooksy? A killer trapped by a ghost. Only there wasn't any ghost.
George, if I've got to say it, and I've got to say it,
Huh?
you're a genius.
Oh, that's okay, Brooksy. You can say it. But all I had to know was that Margot was a phony, and Vida Patterson thought Margot was always on the level. Except once, that is.
Astound me, genius. What do you mean, except once?
Vida paid Margot to produce Mattie Turner and frighten Gabrielle into confessing.
Well, why should Gabrielle confess to a murder she didn't do?
Brooksy, there's a lot of evil people in this world. Vida Patterson is one of them. She knew her niece had a memory blank the night of the murder. So all this time, she's been making Gabrielle believe that she killed her own mother.
So all you did was make Margot produce Mattie Turner again.
Yep. Only this time, Mattie smoked. When Vida heard an imitation of her sister's voice, she thought it was the real thing. It was too much for her.
Oh, well, there's just one thing I still don't understand, George. What happened when you went back to see Margot?
Oh, she read my palm. Yeah, she said I had a wonderful heart line.
Oh?
Margot looked at my hand and said I was a lover.
Oh. Well, I got a pretty good heart line myself.
Yeah?
Look at it, George.
Yeah.
Do you know what I think, George?
No, tell me what you think.
Well, I think we ought to get our heart lines crossed and see what happens.
And now, a word of importance to motorists. Maybe you've run into the kind of motorist who always says, grease is grease, and it doesn't matter where you take your car for lubrication service. Well, don't you believe him. At independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations, they use many specialized grades of RPM greases and oils to give your car a thorough lubrication. And each one is tailor-made to do a wear-saving job at some vital wear point on your car. The regular 1,000-mile grease job at these stations is done by trained experts. They follow a lube chart approved by the manufacturer of your car, and they take pride in doing a spick-and-span clean job for you. Next time your car is due for lubrication service, rely on the standard station or the independent Chevron gas station, where they say and mean, we'll take better care of your car. Next week, when you tune our way for another adventure of George Valentine, you'll hear...
Hey, Brooksy, tell me something.
Yes, George?
How would you like to play Cigarette Girl at the Kit Kat Club tomorrow night?
You mean in one of those fluffy short skirts and long black stockings?
Yeah, the works.
Yeah, but what are you talking about, George?
We're going to stage a little drama, Brooksy, with a cast of two. A Carnation and Art Gary. And I have a hunch the Carnation will be the star of the show.
Tonight's adventure of George Valentine has been brought to you by Standard of California on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and Standard stations throughout the West. Let George Do It stars Robert Bailey as George with Frances Robinson as Claire. Wally Mayer appears as Lieutenant Riley. Tonight's story was written by Morton Fine and directed by Don Clark. Also heard in the cast were Don Morrison as Gilbert, Irene Tedrow as Margot, Sarah Selby as Vida, Jean Bates as Gabrielle, and Lal Chan Mehra as Hasim. The music is composed and conducted by Eddie Dunstetter. Your announcer, John Heaston. Listen again next week, same time, same station, to Let George Do It. This is the Mutual Don Lee Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. You know, I love those ending teasers, except when the episode teased is missing. And so now, as I'm looking ahead, the episode that they teased is not in circulation anywhere. So I'm going to be wondering, okay, why was George wanting Brooksy to dress up in the Cigarette Girl outfit? What was going on there? All right, well, I guess we'll find out if that episode ever comes into circulation, so that'll have to be somewhat unresolved. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, bringing you this week's episode of Sherlock Holmes. You got a comment, please send it to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Please cast your vote over at podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. And fill out our listener survey. We're up to about 50, but ideally I'd like to have about 100. That's survey.greatdetectives.net. Well, we're going to get into today's story. This one is interesting for a number of reasons. The episode we listened to last week was the only episode of Sherlock Holmes from the 1940 to 41 season. This is the only episode from the 1941 to 42 season that I could find. This is based on the mystery, the Adventure of the Red Circle. The old-time radio logs and such call it Mrs. Warren's Key, but I don't see a basis in the script for, or the recording itself for this titling, but it's a little bit different than the Red Circle, so we'll just go ahead and go with that on the titling. This will be a little interesting for several reasons. This comes from December 7th, 1941, which, if you know your history, is when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. What makes this episode interesting is, of course, Sherlock Holmes went on the air. Usually, when something as catastrophic as Pearl Harbor happens, all programming just ends up totally preempted. As the news goes into regurgitation constantly, this, however, was recorded before we had the 24-hour news cycle. However, we did get a very important piece of information, so you kind of get a picture of how news gathering and news reporting worked on the radio before the 24-hour news cycle. So a little bit of sociological fun there as well. Apologize, this is not the best recording out there. It's listenable, but prefer better. But I think for the historic value, you'll enjoy it. Before we do get started, I do want to remind you, as you make your plans for the new year, if you're starting a new business, you need a website. And a great place to get it is One-and-One, the world's #1 web host, with millions of customers around the world. They're our host. We strongly recommend them, and we rely on them each week to bring you the great detectives of old-time radio. If you like great web hosting and to help the great detectives of old-time radio, go to hosting.oneandone.com. Even if you don't need a new web host, they've got great deals on domain name packages to suit whatever your your web hosting needs are. But let's go ahead and get into today's episode, Mrs. Warren's Key.
Sherlock Holmes, starring Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce. The makers of bromoquinine cold tablets bring you another adventure of Sherlock Holmes, with Basil Rathbone as Sherlock Holmes and Nigel Bruce as Dr. Watson. Friends, when you're the victim of a cold, remember this. Bromoquinine cold tablets are made exclusively to help relieve the usual distress of cold. They're not a cure-all. They're made for one purpose, and one purpose only, to help relieve the common miseries of a cold. The ache, the pain, the fever, and nasal stuffing. That's why they do such an effective job. Give yourself the advantages of specialized medication. When a cold attacks, take bromoquinine cold tablets as directed, and only as directed. Now, here we are again in our habitual armchair in front of Dr. Watson's fireplace, waiting for the good doctor to put down the evening paper.
Oh, I beg your pardon, Mr. Manning. I didn't see you come in. I was reading about your latest American gang shooting.
Yes, crime seems to be riding high, wide, and handsome in most of our big cities, I'm afraid. What a pity we haven't got Mr. Sherlock Holmes on the job.
This is just what I was thinking.
But on the other hand, these gangs of racketeers have sprung up since he retired. Perhaps he wouldn't know how to handle it.
Rubbish. I can remember just one case we handled back in '94. It was concerned with Giorgiano, the worst gang leader New York ever had. They didn't call it racketeering in those days, but it amounted to the same thing. Kidnapping, blackmailing, bombing, terrorizing innocent people. By during the course of that particular case, Giorgiano had one man taken for a ride, as you call it, sir.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. Why don't you tell us about it?
Well, it's a bad story. Let me see. It was in November in the year 1894. Holmes and I were sitting in our rooms in Vegas.
Well, I thought you said this story was about the head of a New York gang.
Yes, so I did, Mr. Manning, so I did. Don't you interrupt. Even famous gangsters have been known to travel about from time to time. Well, as I was saying, Holmes and I were sitting in our rooms in Baker Street, and our housekeeper, Mrs. Hudson, ushered in a friend of hers, a landlady who kept lodgings in Great Orm Street. Holmes invited her to sit down. The poor woman was obviously harassed and kept plucking away at the fringe of her cape.
Mrs. Hudson tells me that you've been having some difficulty with the lodger, Mrs.
Warren, that's the name, sir. No, Mr. Holmes, you couldn't call it difficulty I'm having. And it was a lodger that was easier to do for. It's just that I don't see him from one weekend to the other.
Oh, come now. That's nothing to be uneasy about. My blessed Mrs. Warren, if I were your lodger, there would be many occasions when you wouldn't see me for weeks at a time. I work a good deal at night, you know, and do my sleeping by day.
No doubt, Mr. Holmes. But this is different. He never goes out, not even at night. I've waited up to find out. I never see his face, not even when he pays his bills. Not a sign of him ever seen for the last 3 weeks.
And how do you know he's still there?
Like he's trying to get away from something? Oh, it frightens me, Mr. Holmes. I can't sleep for fright.
When did this lodger first come to you?
3 weeks back it was. He asked me to turn to my fee, 50 shillings a week. You see, there's a fine sitting room and bedroom all complete like at the top of the house.
Yes, indeed. Go on.
Well, Mr. Holmes, he said to me, I'll pay £5 a week if I can have it on my own terms. He took a £10 note out of his pocket then and there and gave it to me 2 weeks in advance. Then he says he's to be left entirely to himself and never for any excuse are we to disturb him.
So he took the rooms and hasn't been out since.
Oh, yes, he has, sir. Yes.
But I thought you said that he...
Just once it was, sir, that first night. He went out and returned very late. He was all in bed, but I heard him walking up the stairs. And his door shut and locked. Oh, it keeps it locked. And I ain't seen him since.
But his meals. How does he get his meals?
Well, when he rings, I take a tray up and leave it on a chair outside his door. Then when he rings again, up I goes and takes the tray away empty. If he's wanting anything else, he writes it on a slip of paper and puts it on the tray.
I see. Have you brought any of those slips of paper with you?
Yes, Mr. Holmes. There's been 3.
Good.
Here they are.
Uh-huh. When today? Most interesting. Written with a broad, pointed, violet-tipped pencil and printed.
Well, what do they say, Holmes?
The messages are quite laconic, my dear Watson. Soap, Daily Gazette, and match. They open up a very pleasing field of intelligent speculation. Suggestive, Watson, very suggestive. The gentleman...
Anything very unusual about those papers?
No. They're printed. The gentleman doesn't wish Mrs. Warren to obtain a sample of his handwriting. And here, look. On this slip, after the soap, a corner has been torn away. There is evidence of a mark, perhaps a thumbprint. It might give a clue to the man's identity. Furthermore, the person is undoubtedly a foreigner.
Oh, how do you deduce that?
When he writes match, not matches. You must look the word up in the dictionary. The table is the singular, of course. Now, Mrs. Warren, what did your lodger look like when he came to take the room?
Youngish he was, Mr. Holmes. Not over 30. Middle size, dark, and he had a beard.
Spoke English?
Yes, sir, he spoke English well enough, but with an accent to the foreign.
What I tell you, Watson, what I tell you. Did he give his name?
No, sir.
He had any letters or callers?
No, sir.
Where did he retire when you or the girl go into his in the morning?
We don't go in, sir. He does for himself.
Oh, I see, yes, interesting. And you say nothing has come out of that room? Absolutely nothing?
Just 2 burnt matches and a cigarette end. They was on the tray this morning.
You brought them with you?
Oh, that I did, sir. Mrs. Hudson told me how you said nothing was too small to take notice of.
Mrs. Hudson was right.
Sir, easy.
These matches were used to light cigarettes.
Steady. How can you tell what the matches were used for?
Quite obvious, my dear. Wasn't quite obvious. The shortness of the burnt end. At least half a match is consumed in lighting a pipe or a cigar. Hello. Well. This cigarette is certainly remarkable. Yes, Mrs. Warren. The gentleman who is now living in your rooms is not the gentleman who engaged them.
No, Holmes, you can't tell us that. You can deduce that from the cigarette itself.
Elementary, my dear Watson, elementary. Notice the size of the thing. I believe you said the first gentleman had a beard, Mrs. Warren.
Yes, sir, a black beard it was, and a flowing moustache.
Yes. Now, take the cigarette. Only a clean-shaven man could have smoked it down this far. Why, Watson, even that person you call a moustache would have been singed.
That's not very funny. Perhaps he used a holder.
Impossible, my dear fellow. Notice the way that it's matted at the end. No, it's a different person entirely.
How could he have got in?
Well, he went out the first night, Mrs. Warren tells us. But did the same man return? I think not. I think it was the second chap who came back. The one for whom the first man took the room.
Perhaps they both returned. Possibly there are 2 men in those rooms.
Excellent, my dear Watson, excellent. You're coming along. Now, tell me, Mrs. Warren, how much does the fellow eat? Could it be enough for 2?
Oh, no, sir. He eats so little I often wonder if he can keep life in warm.
Well, that settles that.
Oh?
Now, Mrs. Warren, there seems to be nothing more to be done for the moment. I hardly think the situation is dangerous, at least not for the present. But keep us informed of any further developments.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Holmes. I feel easier in my mind already. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Not at all.
Good day, gentlemen.
Good day,
Mrs. Warren. Look here, Holmes. You're not going to go fucking about in this affair. The man is probably just a harmless eccentric of some sort.
You never know, Watson. You never know. Whoever he is, he's living in terror.
Huh?
Terror of what, I wonder?
Oh, rubbish. Besides, who's going to foot the bill? What do you expect to get out of a case like this?
Education? Look, the pursuit of knowledge, Watson, is my great hobby.
Pursuit of knowledge of the foot. Curiosity, that's what it is. Plain, unadulterated curiosity.
Oh, possibly, Watson, possibly. Education, pursuit of knowledge, curiosity. Perhaps they all amount to the same thing.
Where are you going to look for your education in this case, if I may ask?
In the Daily Gazette, my dear fellow, in the Daily Gazette. A newspaper is often a very storehouse of knowledge.
Every time I look at you, you have your nose buried in a copy of the Daily Gazette. Why the fondness? for that yellow rag?
Yeah. The Daily Gazette is the paper Mrs. Warren's mysterious lodger asked for, remember?
Well, what of it? What can you discover from a common newspaper? The answer is nothing. Nothing at all. Here it is 4 days since we heard of that mysterious gentleman, Mrs. Warren. What have you unearthed? Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
You're wrong as usual, my dear Watson.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special bulletin from the NBC newsroom in New York. President Roosevelt will address the joint session of Congress at noon tomorrow. We return you now to the adventures of Sherlock Holmes.
My chief enemies to the hiding place of the mysterious lodger. How would you go about keeping in touch with him?
Just right now.
Through the papers, my dear fellow, through the agony columns. And since Mrs. Warren's lodger received only one paper, the notices must appear in that.
Okay. See now, but how can you tell which notice is the one we're after?
By elimination, Watson. By elimination. Take this paper, for instance. The edition which appeared 2 days after the lodger took up his residence with Mrs. Warren.
The agony column, huh? Let's have a look. Dear me. What a collection of groans, cries, and utter nonsense.
Oh, perhaps, my dear Watson, perhaps. But nevertheless, an invaluable hunting ground for the searchers after education. Well, go on.
The first one reads, surely Jimmy will not break his mother's heart. That's not very certain. Listen to this. It's the lady who fainted in the Brixton Park.
Disregard that. The lady doesn't interest me.
Here's another. Every day, my heart
Oh,
longs.
bleach, Watson. Unmitigated bleach. Go on, please.
Well. Be patient. We'll find some means of communication. Meanwhile, what's this column? It's signed G.
Sounds more plausible, eh?
Are there any others?
Yes. 3 days later, we picked up the trail again. Here it is. There, that one.
And making successful arrangements, patience and prudence, the clouds will pass. G again.
Yes, nothing to 2 weeks after that. Then comes something more definite. Here.
The park is clearing. If I find chance to signal, remember code. A1, B2, and so on. You will hear soon. Oh, what's more G? By Jove. Things are warming up.
Oh, see who that is, will you, Watson?
Oh, sure. I'm sure he wanted to run. Thank you so much.
Well. What is it?
It's the afternoon copy of the Gazette that has just arrived. This is how they kind of ordered up.
Good. See if there's anything in it.
House of Parliament in heated session. Actress has pearls stolen.
Oh, come on, give me that paper.
Look out, Holmes. Do tell. Snatching the paper out of a fellow's hands like that. Nice manners, I must say.
Here we are, Watson. Here we are. High red house with white stone facing, third floor, second window left after dusk. G. Ha. That's definite enough, Watson. That's definite enough. Hello. What's that? Look out of the window, will you, Watson?
See your friend, Mrs. Warren. I said it. She must be excited. Her hat's on the side of her head, and she's puffing like a steam engine. There's Mrs. Hudson. Just let her in.
Yeah, something's happened. We weren't there. Confound it, Watson. I hope nothing said it. Come in.
Oh.
Mrs. Warren, what's up?
Oh, Mr. Holmes, sir, I come as best as I could.
Well, here, take a chair and get your breath.
Oh.
No, wait a minute. Sit down.
Oh.
That's better. Now then, what's happened?
It's a police matter, that's what it is. I'll have no more of it, and I won't. I'll pack him out bag and baggage. I'm at the end of my patience, I am. When it comes to knocking my old man about...
Mr. Warren,
well, treating him rough anyway.
Who did that?
Well, that's what we want to know. It was around 11 this morning. There was a fog, you remember? Well, I sent Mr. Warren around to get me some money and for the stew we were to have for lunch. Well, he says he got no more than 10 paces down the road when 2 men come up behind him, threw a coat over his head, and bundled him into a cab that was standing beside the curb. 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and he don't come back. And there am I in my stew left waiting for the onions. Well, at 2 o'clock, he cut up a stew anyhow. And you know what a stew is like without onions.
Yes, it's like tea without...
Yes,
without milk.
I like mine.
Well,
tea without milk is about that. That's one of the most...
Go on, Mrs. Warren. Go on, never mind.
Yes, well, at 3 o'clock, my old man comes home, all black and blue, and his coat tore. At first, I think he's been in some pub. He's got a weakness for a drunk now and then.
Yes.
And pretty soon, I see he's not drunk, just dazed, and he tells me he's been driving around for 2 hours with a couple of men threatening him, and finally they opened the door and shoved him out. And when he comes to, he found he was on Hampstead Heath, so he took a bus home, and there he lies now on the sofa, moaning and groaning.
Indeed, most interesting. Did he notice the appearance of the men? Did he hear them talk?
No, know Mr. Holmes between days. He just knows he was lifted up as if by magic and then dropped again. Mr. Magic? Yes, sir, that's right.
And you connect this attack with your lodger?
Well, sir, we've been living there 15 years now, and no such happenings ever came before. I've had enough of it. Money's not everything. I'll have him out of the house before the day is
Now,
done.
wait a minute, Mrs. Warren. Wait a minute. Don't do anything rash. The matter's becoming more and more interesting. It's clear that these men mistook your husband for your lodger, and they had his hog this morning, and when they discovered their mistake, they released him.
They threw him out, they did, on his ear.
Yes, well, wait a minute. The important thing is that your lodger's enemies have found him. They're on his track. They'll be back. I suggest you return to your home at once before anything serious has a chance to happen.
Just a moment, we'll rejoin Sherlock Holmes as he endeavors to solve the mystery of Mrs. Warren's lodger. Ladies and gentlemen, in every American city, town, or village, you'll find a group of people who are worthy of the highest praise. The American druggists, men and women who are always on the job to serve our needs day and night. This evening, we have a very welcome guest, a druggist from the city of the famous Mardi Gras, colorful New Orleans, Mr. Wally Schweikart of the Schaefer and Schweikart Pharmacy at Carrollton and Genesee. Now, here's what happened the other day when a friend of mine visited the Schaefer and Schweikart Pharmacy.
Mr. Schweikart, you certainly have a fine modern drugstore. How long have you been serving this neighborhood?
About 25 years.
Well, sir, it's a long time. Say, what were those big buildings I just passed on the way out?
Why, the famous Tulane and Loyola University. And we're proud to have some of the students among our best customers.
And I suppose you have an occasional professor stopping in, too, huh?
Yes, we do. College students and professors buy medicines just like anyone else.
And that brings up a question I'd like to ask. What do most of your customers buy when they want to relieve the usual symptoms of colds?
Bromoquinine cold tablets by a big margin. We recommend them, and both Mr. Schaefer and I have used them to help relieve the common miseries of our own colds.
That's just the way it happened, isn't it, Mr. Schweikart?
Yes, that's right.
It's been a pleasure to have you with us, Mr. Schweikart, and your statement bears out the results of a coast-to-coast survey conducted by one of America's leading research organizations and taken among over 2,000 American druggists just like yourself. It was found that more than 87%, that's about 9 out of every 10 druggists, recommend bromoquinine cold tablets as an effective aid in the relief of the usual cold symptoms. And in addition, the majority of these druggists said the bromoquinine cold tablets were their largest selling tablets made exclusively for the common distress of cold. Friends, when you have the usual symptoms of a cold, get the preparation your druggist probably recommends. Time-proven bromoquinine cold tablets and take only as directed. Bromo, B-R-O-M-O. Quinine, Q-U-I-N-I-N-E. Bromoquinine cold tablets.
Very tidy indeed. Starched curtains, polished doorknobs.
I'm doing my best, Mr. Holmes. Now, where do I put my keys?
Those windows on the top floor where the lamp is lit. Those are the lodgers' rooms, I take it?
Yes, sir. Oh, here's the key. You slipped inside the letter number bag. Will you come in, gentlemen?
Holmes? Oh, the door's open. Come on in. I say, why are you staring at that house across the street?
You see it, Watson? You see it?
Of course I see it. I'm not blind.
High red house with white stone facing.
Of course. The message.
Yes. Watson, that is undoubtedly the signal station. Notice the to let sign in the window? An ideal spot, my dear fellow. An ideal spot.
I dare say we're supposed to be gone inside. We're keeping Mrs. Warren waiting.
Right, Watson. Practical as usual. Oh, Mrs. Warren, what now?
I don't rightly know, sir.
Well, suppose we begin by taking a look at this mysterious lodger of yours.
Well, how are you going to manage that if he keeps the door locked?
When do you take his next tray up to me, Mrs. Warren?
Usually I used to around 4:30.
4:30, eh? It's almost that now. Is there any chance, another room with a door opening onto the corridor?
No, sir, that is... Oh, wait a minute, sir. There's a cupboard. A big cupboard almost opposite his door, here.
Excellent. What you and I will secrete ourselves in that cupboard while Mrs. Warren fixes the gentleman's tea tray.
Very good, sir. I'll do it right away. It's the top floor, Mr. Holmes. You can't miss it. The cupboard door is the first one to the right, at the head of the stairs.
Good, thank you. Come on, Watson.
You think it's nice, flying like this?
Watson, you've too many scruples for a first-class detective. Oh, come up the stairs. They creak like a rusty one.
Now, what are you doing?
Moving my shoes. You better follow my example. That way you'll have a much better chance of being undetected.
Very well, but I feel like a criminal myself. Oh, not I can't get this shoelace undone.
Well, for goodness sake, break it. We can't sit here all night.
All right. Oh, there you are.
Come along now. Quiet, stay quiet. Sounds like the charge of the light brigade.
I'm not making any more noise than you are.
Cupboard door. Yes, let's go.
What? What you said it was the last.
Smoke a fake, please, Sylvia. Oh, close the door. Look at the crack. That's not too
Move up a little. I can't see the best thing put together like this.
Well, not supposed to. I'll do this little man bit of it myself. Ah, here comes Mrs. Warren now. Stop that noise, Watson. You're pumping like a grappler. Yes, here she is. Slipped on chair. Going away. At the door now. Slowly. And a big by thunder. Well, I'm dashed.
What is it, Holmes?
What's happened? Something I did not foresee. Follow me downstairs quickly, Watson.
Why, all excitement. Who was it? Who opened the door?
Remember, I deduced the substitution of lodgers, Watson? Yes. What I did not foresee was that we should find a woman, and no ordinary woman, Watson.
No, of course not.
Dark, young, handsome, with a face etched with terror.
Terror? Do you think she saw us?
I think she suspected our presence.
Well, what do we do now?
We'll put on our shoes. They're going to spend the next few minutes on the front doorstep.
Why?
You remember the message said that G would communicate with the lady at dusk today? Please keep an eye on the window opposite.
Yes, but that's
It's almost dark now. Come along.
Holmes, we've been here for half an hour. My fingers are practically numb. Perhaps your friend has seen us and been scared off.
Well, this doorway's too dark. It's more likely that something has happened to prevent us coming. Hold on. There's a light over there now.
Yes, I can see a shadow. Look, there he is. Pale face. Just against the bed.
He's got a candle. Peering across. Wants to make sure she's there. Have you seen his flash? A single flash? Say, take the message, Willie Watson, so we can check up on each other.
Go ahead. T. That's T-H-at.
Wait a minute. There's down. Another T.
That must be the beginning of the second word.
Now E. Then comes an N. Long one this time.
It's another T.
An A. It's not. Well, surely that's not all.
At 10 tower. At 10 tonight. That's why we're going. I had it. T-A is the initial.
Let's go again.
Why do you got to waste like that? I can't keep up with it.
The same message over again. Curious, Watson. Attenta.
Must be in cipher, Holmes.
Not a very obscure cipher, Watson. It's Italian. Attenta means beware. It must be urgent.
Very good, sir.
Still the same message. Attention. Hello? You've broken off. The light's gone out. Someone's broken the window. What's that? Quick, Watson. We must get in there. Something violent is happening.
The door's unlocked, Holmes.
Come on, Ben. Keep your revolver handy. Dark, I can't see your face. Here, up these stairs. Hello. There's a camp where he dropped it. Too warm. Got a match, Watson. That's better. Let's look around a bit.
So quiet. It's uncanny. Where could he have gone?
There's a broken window. And here, look here, Watson. Blood. A trail of blood on heavy objects has been dragged along the floor. Lead to this cupboard door. Open it, Watson.
Is it open? Oh, very well. Oh, look. On the floor, a man.
On his back and covered with blood.
Look, there's a knife. A knife sticking straight up.
Driven blade deep into the body. A terrific blow. Give me that candle. Let's have a look at him. Yes.
There. Look at the red circle drawn on the floor under his head. A halo in blood. Holmes, what are you doing with that candle?
Finishing the message. I think it will be helpful. Let's get to the root of this mystery. I must find out how he got there.
You knew this man? Then you recognize him?
Naturally, Watson. It's Black Georgiano, the head of the most terrible band of criminals in America.
Georgiano. Gee, Georgiano. Then it must be he who sent the message. What's he doing over here in England?
That's the question you must ask a lady from across the street. We should be here in a moment. I signaled her to come. Here she is.
What is it? I have a come. Sue, what is it? What have you done with me?
You must prepare yourself for an aftershock, madam.
My husband, what has happened? What are you hiding from me? Who is that on the floor?
I beg of you not...
Oh, let me see. Georgiano. Dear me, you're seeing him. He's dead.
Please don't be so upset, madam.
But it is wonderful, marvelous.
What?
You are a policeman. You have killed him. Oh, I'm so happy. You have killed him.
He was dead when we found him.
How so? Then it was my Jenna who killed him. My wonderful Jenna. He has done it to protect me. He has seen me. He is magnificent. But wait. Just now he sent a message for me to call.
It was I who sent the final message. Your husband disappeared out of the back window, if I read the signs correctly.
But I ran away. Oh, my husband, he did it to protect himself. To save me. No one could blame him. You could not arrest him for that. No. Now that your Jenna is dead, we fear nothing. We are free.
Perhaps you'd like to tell us about it. I may be able to arrange matters with Scotland Yard.
Well, Jenna is my husband. Gennaro Luca. I am Amelia Luca. My husband and I, we live in New York. We are happy until my Geno's brother, he meets this Georgiano. He was a devil. A monster. There is no judge in the world who would punish my husband because he killed him.
Yes, I understand he had rather an unsavory character.
He was a king. He makes the young Italian men join in his society. Gennaro's brother was one of his men. He cannot break away. He must do the most terrible thing. And then one night he say no. And he was shot. Shot in the back.
In the back? Quite a sportsman, huh?
Quiet, Watson.
After that, this Georgiano, he say my husband must join his gang. He began to make love to me. He is terrible. I'm so afraid.
So you ran away?
Yes. One night we go on a boat for England. But we know Georgiano will follow us when he finds out. My Jenna, he hide me where I will be safe. He knows Georgiano will come. And he waits for him outside. Tonight he arrives at last. But my Jenna is ready. He is prepared. To kill him. Oh, he is a hero, my Gennaro.
I don't know what the British point of view will be, but I imagine that in New York, this lady's husband will receive a pretty general vote of thanks.
Oh, I think we can arrange the British point of view, Watson. Scotland Yard has been on the lookout for this Georgiano since they heard he had landed. Mr. Luca has just taken a little bit of work, that's all. And now, Mrs. Luca, if you'll come with me, I believe we can arrange matters satisfactorily.
Grazie, signor, grazie. I'm so happy.
Well, it's been an interesting case, Holmes, but I still can't for the life of me see what you expect to get out of it.
Education, Watson. A little more education. Always seeking knowledge at the old university.
In just a moment, Dr. Watson will be back to tell us about next week's story. Ladies and gentlemen, when colds are prevalent, act wisely. Don't neglect the cold. Rest and avoid exposure. Remember, if neglected, even a so-called light cold may lead to more serious illness. But if a cold attacks with its headache, pain, nasal distress, and fever, take bromoquinine cold tablets. They go right to work to help relieve the usual miseries of a cold. They're specialized medication, and they work internally. They bring prompt relief, grateful relief, and they are time-proven. They're known and sold everywhere to help relieve the common discomforts of cold. Yes, you can take them with confidence. So when you have the usual symptoms of a cold, get busy and take bromoquinine cold tablets. Use only as directed, and be sure to get the real thing. Look for the letters LBQ on the tablet, and always ask for them by name. Bromo, B-R-O-M-O. Quinine, Q-U-I-N-I-N-E. Bromoquinine cold tablets. Now, Dr. Watson, what about next week?
Well, next week I think I'll tell you an adventure that took me on a wild goose chase halfway across the continent of Europe. A case which Holmes solved by opening a coffin.
You've been listening to a Sherlock Holmes adventure adapted from Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's story, The Adventure of the Red Circle, with Basil Rathbone as Sherlock Holmes and Nigel Bruce as Dr. Watson. The dramatization was by Edith Miser, musical interludes composed and conducted by Lou Crosslock. This program is presented from Hollywood each week at this time by the makers of bromoquinine cold tablets, prompt relief for cold distress. This is Mark Manning speaking. Christmas seals are the stamps that help fight tuberculosis. Your contribution to the health and strength of our nation. Buy your Christmas seals today. This is the Red Network of the National Broadcasting Company.
Welcome back. You know, the most enjoyable thing in the world to watch Sherlock Holmes do, and you know, I've heard a lot of and seen a lot of people try to emphasize different things about Holmes, but the best thing to me is just to see him work, to start pulling these facts that are obvious to him, but to no one else. It's a pleasure to listen to. And this episode had plenty of that. The other thing that I found interesting was the news bulletin. You notice that news bulletin came in the middle, announced President Roosevelt was addressing Congress, and I believe this episode was transcribed. So you know, they just basically went right back to where they had been in the script. You didn't miss anything. It was like had to be no more than 20-second notice that President Roosevelt was going to speak to Congress. You know, I have to wonder how those poor people in the 1940s survived. How could they understand what was going on if the news anchor didn't, first of all, explain everything that they already knew and had seen and had heard beforehand about what happened on Pearl Harbor, and then bring in a Democrat and a Republican to discuss what the president was going to say and what he would need to say in his speech. How could they do that? I mean, an announcement like this would take 5 minutes. And on a 24-hour news station, it would take, they would take, 15 minutes to go over this. I think that they did have a better idea when we were in the pre-24-hour news segment. We got to know what's going on, but we don't need to know it to death. But all right, well, that's my little observation based on that. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, bringing you this week's episode of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar. You got any comments, please email me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Please cast your vote over at Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. Comments there are appreciated, but not required. Please cast your vote and also fill out our survey, survey.greatdetectives.net. I've mentioned the Nostalgia Place survey of Nostalgia Place users, but I'd never found the Nostalgia page. I'd assumed that I couldn't find a .com or a .net for it, so I assumed basically the site, like a lot of other sites, just basically didn't exist anymore. But actually, it does exist. It's actually the Nostalgia Pages is actually a forum of another site. It's at forum.oldradio.net. Forums, plural, .oldradio.net. Forums.oldradio.net. And it's actually a pretty neat forum. A lot of information on a lot of series. There have been a lot of questions asked, a lot of questions answered, and some pretty knowledgeable people that read there. And it actually leads into one of the comments I got on Podcast Alley. I thought I'd tell you that there's a Box 13 just like this week's Let George Do It. That doesn't surprise me. One of the threads they have on the Nostalgia pages is they mention that when you get into the 5-part Yours Truly Johnny Dollar episodes, It's several of them are actually adaptations of 30-minute radio dramas that the writers, in that case, E. Jack Newman and Les Crutchfield, wrote for other episodes of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar, or that they wrote for other series like Richard Diamond, Sam Spade, Nightbeat, or Jeff Regan, Investigator. And so, because you have some of these writers like E. Jack Newman, Les Crutchfield, who show up on different shows, you'll occasionally get episodes that are somewhat similar themed. And the writers aren't ripping off anyone other than themselves. But because you did have these writers who wrote for so many of the same series, that's probably one of the biggest reasons why there's so much that out there that we can enjoy today, because you had good writers working to create multiple characters in multiple different settings. So, and there's even more information. It's pretty fun. They've got forums for Dragnet, for Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar. Really, it's a nice site to check out. Forums.oldradio.net. That's our tip for the show. We got a couple more comments, but we'll share them right after the episode. Before we get started, I want to remind you, as you make your travel plans in this new year, please remember JohnnyDollarAir.com. JohnnyDollarAir.com is Priceline, and there you can get great deals on airlines, hotel tickets, rental cars, cruises, and even more. Plus, you can help support the great detectives of old-time radio with your purchases. So please remember, if you want to travel to great destinations and you don't have an action-packed expense account, remember that name, JohnnyDollarAir.com. JohnnyDollarAir.com. Well, let's get into today's episode. We once again have a lost episode in our Johnny Dollar our Johnny Dollar episode log. How much bourbon can flow under the bridge work is missing from July 31st, 49. So this episode from August 7th, 49, Murder Ain't Minor. Let's go ahead and we will listen, and then we'll come back.
I hope St. Peter's listening. This report may one day help qualify me for that pass through the pearly gates. This case almost rushed me up there. This is another adventure of America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator, Johnny Dollar. At Insurance Investigation, Johnny Dollar is just an expert. At making out his expense account, he is an absolute genius. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Special Investigator Johnny Dollar. This one's on the house. I wouldn't even bother itemizing it, except that the whole thing is probably tax deductible. The following is an accounting of my expenditures during my investigation of Bonnie Goodwin. Or, she was under 21, but that didn't mean she was involved with nothing but minor vices. Or, murder ain't minor. Expense account, item 1. $12.40. Scotch whiskey and cigars consumed at surprise party arranged for me by one Mr. King Hart at my apartment in Hartford, Connecticut at 1:25 in the morning. Well, who are you? And which one of us is in the wrong apartment?
Neither one of us. I'm King Hart. I came down from New York to see you. I hope you don't mind my helping myself to a cigar while I was waiting.
Well, no, not at all. I'd even join you in a drink of my scotch, only I don't think I could squeeze it out of the cork.
I'll send you a case.
Send me a copy of your pass key while you're at it. Maybe I can drop in on you sometime. This verges on the illegal.
Let's not waste time trying to scare each other, huh? Let's talk business.
What is your business?
Well, that verges on the legal. That's why I need you. In your racket, you're well enough known to do me some good. In mine, I'm too well known to do it myself.
Do what?
Find a girl for me.
Oh, now, wait a minute. I'm in the insurance business.
So's the girl. She's a beneficiary of my insurance policy. This is a very unusual case. I was a sucker. The way that policy is written, I need her signature to do what I want to do.
Change the beneficiary?
Yeah.
I'm all set to marry an honest dame. She's lovely.
Well, I'll tell you, Mr. Hart. I make it a habit to work for big insurance companies, not individuals. Sorry.
How come?
I can't look up your credit rating in Dun & Bradstreet.
Look it up in this wallet. Go ahead. Don't be bashful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you're solvent. Corners of these bills look like the tally on a baseball scoreboard. 1 run on the first and then 3 goose eggs.
Help yourself.
Not so fast. Your money may be okay, but about your story.
What about it?
Look, there's any number of good licensed private detectives that you could have gone to. Philip Marlowe, Sam Spade, and Richard Diamond. And he would not only have solved your case, he would also sing you a song. Why did you come to me?
I thought you had me straight. I don't like detectives. I'm allergic to coppers, pro or semi-pro. So's the girl. Look, Dollar, all you have to do is find a girl, get her signature on the form, and bring it back. Is that so tough?
Well, my wisdom tooth still finds it a little tough to chew. I'd like to see the policy.
Sure, I brought it with me. Here you are.
Well, it's a motive-sized policy. $100,000. How'd you ever get it, Mr. Hart?
When I took it out, I was a haberdasher.
Specializing, no doubt, in bulletproof vests styled by Hart, Schaffner, and U.S. Steel? Oh, yes. Beneficiary, Bonnie Goodwin.
That's her.
Well, before I can start looking, I should know where she stopped being around.
Chicago. You'll find that and a lot of other stuff about her stapled to the back of the policy.
My, you're the very model of efficiency.
I should be. As a model prisoner, I ran the accounting department at Leavenworth for 5 years.
Thanks for not being bashful about your past. Makes it easy for me not to be bashful about asking you for something.
What's that?
My assignment in writing. I just don't want anybody to get the wrong idea about my association with you.
That's okay.
All right. You'll pay for the ticket. I guess I'm ready to take the ride.
How much?
A $3,000 retainer, and I'll bill you for my expenses.
It's a deal. And don't hesitate to travel first class.
Don't worry, Mr. Hart. Don't worry. Expense account, item 2, $55.32. Plane fare, Hartford to Chicago. Expense account, item 3, $4. Cab fare from airport to downtown. It takes about half as long to get from the Chicago airport to downtown as it does from Hartford to Chicago airport. I checked into the Ambassador, where I intended to live, first class. And expense account item 4, $1.20. Cab fare to the Muriel Arms, a female hostelry where I didn't expect to live, but which was Bonnie Goodwin's last known address. Even at noon, it looked like a good place to start an investigation by either the police, the fire, or the sanitation department.
You're going to sing on me. I said my constitutional right. Yeah, when did you pronounce it? 30 days. Call back after 4. Hello, Muriel Arms. I'm sorry, Miss Graham left a no disturb until 2:30. Hello, Muriel Arms. Call back after 2:30, please.
Pardon me?
Muriel Arms. No, she isn't. She'll be back in 5 days.
Hey!
Yes, sir.
Where can I find the room clerk?
That's me.
Oh, good. I'm looking for a girl who used to live here. Her name's Goodwin. You remember her?
Oh, the little princess. Yeah, I remember. I'm trying to forget her.
Well, I'm trying to find her. You know where she went from here?
No, and I don't care. One of the girls said she saw her hanging around Emma's place. That's over on West Street. You'll hear it before you see it. I'm sorry, Missy. That's all I got time for. These calls are piling up. Hello, Muriel Arms.
Say, bartender. Where can I find Emma?
I'm Emma, and no joke. What do you want?
I'm looking for a girl named Bonnie Goodwin.
She ain't around. You told her she wasn't wanted around here.
Oh, that's your business. My business is to find her.
Who are you? From the law?
Well, from the law of averages, the insurance business.
If you're selling insurance, you're going the right way. She needs some. Why don't you try the Flagler apartment?
Not only did the Flagler apartment fail to produce Bonnie Goodwin, but so did about 18 other wayward way stations scattered from the Loop to the far north side. She was an easy girl to follow, but a hard girl to find. One of the things they learned along the trail was that Bonnie's heart was apparently no express train. It made a lot of local stops. And one of the things I was reminded of during the tedious search was a philosophy passed along to me at a tender age by an old Pinkerton operator who said, being a detective is 90% legwork, just like being a mailman with no address on the letters. Expense account, item 5. $14.95, shoe leather. My brogans and my nerve ends were worn to a frazzle by 8 o'clock that night when I went sniffing up my latest lead, which took me to the desk of a tasty little flea bag on Dearborn. Oh, it felt like you were picking up the 7-year itch just walking into the lobby.
Hiya, Sonny. Are you looking for somebody?
Yeah, and if I don't find her soon, I think I'll just sit still and let her find me. One of your guests, Bonnie Goodwin. You know her?
As much as I know any of them, I guess.
She's still here?
No.
Well, do you know where she is?
No, all I know is she moved out of here. Because I asked her to this morning.
Tell me, what makes this kid so popular?
Makes me nervous. I don't like the people she brings around.
You mean me, Grandma? Or do you mean you don't like her choice of friends?
I didn't say they were friends. No, I'm through talking. Beat it.
Now, wait a minute. I've got to find...
Now, listen, little boy. I'm awful good at not talking when I don't feel like it. And right now, I don't. Save yourself some time and get out of here.
Okay. Well, I know what was wrong with that little Red Riding Hood story. Grandma was the wolf. Boo! Oh, nuts.
Hey, I think I want to talk to you.
Go away. Don't bother me.
You were asking about Bonnie, weren't you? I'm a friend of hers.
Oh? Well, where can we talk?
Well, we better get away from this lobby window. Come on.
Where you headed? Out of town?
Huh? Oh, the suitcase?
Mm-hmm.
No, I just came back for the last of our things. Bonnie and I took an apartment today.
Oh, your roommate, huh?
Yeah. What do you want with her?
Wait a minute. Huh? Can you think of any good reason why 2 men should be following you?
Where?
Don't turn around. Where can I meet you?
You're not going to leave me.
Just long enough to get where we're going. Where's a good place?
The hangover house on North Clark.
Who do I ask for when I get there? What's your name?
Say, Paige, why can't I go with you?
I want to find out who's being followed, you or me. Now, there's a hack stand. You take the first cab, yeah. I'll take the second. Bill and Darby take the third, and then we'll know.
What did you find out?
Oh, nothing, Janie. Those guys pitched me the biggest curve since Lefty Grove.
What does that mean?
Oh, we took 2 cabs, so they took 2 cabs. One of them followed me, so it figures one of them followed you. Any idea why?
Now, wait a minute, mister. First, I got to get you straight. I just picked you up on a hunch because you don't look like the other ones. Who are you, and what do you want with Bonnie?
My name is Johnny Dollar. My business? Insurance.
Insurance? Who's dead? King Hart?
Did I hear a hopeful note in your voice, Janie?
Well, is he?
Look, in my business, I've learned never to give a definite answer to that question. But, as far as I know, he's still alive. He was when I saw him yesterday. He hired me to find Bonnie because he wants to get her name off his life insurance policy. As simple as that.
That skunk. After what he put us through.
You can file this question under N for none of my business, but just what did he put her through?
He built her way up and then he dragged her way down. And she's still too good for him. For anybody who works for him. I'm getting out of here.
Maybe I told you too much about my business.
Just enough. You're trying to help King Hart take away the only thing he left me. If I have my way, he'll never sign away the money from that insurance policy. Good night.
This was the first chance I'd had all day to make anything happen. With a little luck, Janie Sage was going to finally bird dog me straight to the little chick who had flown so many coops, thus making herself so hard to find. As she started down the 60-foot length of the long, narrow bar toward the back door, I saw 2 familiar hulks launch out of their chairs up near the front door. They were after her, and too big for me, our opponents from that game of taxi tag. So I set about stopping them. I took advantage of the narrow room, the big crowd, and a little bitty drunk. I hated to do it, but I had to turn the bottle baby into a bottleneck. I hope he was too numb to care.
Hey, lay off the little guy.
Come on, let me over here.
Get out of our way.
As If you like mob scenes, it was a great go-round when it lasted. But it only lasted 40 seconds. Then it got upstaged by some off-scene action out in the back alley. The crowd went out to look. I didn't. Somehow I knew. My live lead had turned into a dead one. And a morning news flash over my hotel room radio read the funeral services over what little remained of my host.
Guns roared on Chicago's north side again late last night when 6 slugs tore the life out of a 105-pound roulette in an alley shooting reminiscent of the early 30s. Listed at the city morgue as dead on arrival, the body was identified as that of 19-year-old Bonnie Goodwin, ex-girlfriend of the notorious hoodlum King Hart.
In just a moment, we'll return to the second act of Johnny Dollar. But first, a burly sea captain, a fashion designer, a neurotic young gun collector, and a wealthy socialite. One of them very much dead. These are the elements Police Commissioner Bill Grant faces in his adventure on Call the Police tonight. Join Bill Grant for the thrills of the chase as he sets out to solve the case of the hero's funeral. And then take in Sam Spade's latest two-fisted adventure, well spiced with wisecracks. Bill Grant of Call the Police and Sam Spade, like Johnny Dollar, are regular Sunday visitors on most of these same CBS stations. Now, with our star, Charles Russell, we return to the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
In an alley shooting reminiscent of the early 30s, listed as dead on arrival at the city morgue, the body was identified as that of 19-year-old Bonnie Goodwin, ex-girlfriend of the notorious hoodlum King Hart. And now for yesterday's baseball scores in the National...
Spencer Callahan, 6. 2250. Replacement of one hotel room radio, which I punched in the dial. As it had told me that the girl I'd been using as a bird dog the night before was really the bird. That I had spent an hour with Bonnie Goodwin, looking for Bonnie Goodwin. I agree that isn't the proper way to turn off the radio, but the fight up to that time had been one-sided. I had to throw one punch even if the fight was all over. But then the bell rang, calling me out of my corner for another round. The bell on my telephone. Hello.
Hello, Dollar.
Yeah?
This is King Hart. I just got in town. I'm at the airport.
Well, 9 a.m. News travels fast. You got private lines to the major morgues of the country?
A friend of mine told me last night. Joe Emma. What the devil happened, Dollar?
I'm not sure, Hart. It could be that you used me for a leadoff man on a relay team. You hire me to find the girl, then hire some gunmen to follow me. And when I find her, boom.
Now, wait a minute, Dollar.
From now on, it looks like you don't have to worry about who's going to collect on your insurance. Do you, by any chance, collect on hers?
Tell him I lie these days. And flying 800 miles just to be at the scene of the crime has never been one of my habits.
I'm not so sure you just flew in, but I'm dead sure that I'm not on your payroll any longer.
Dollar, listen to me.
You listen. I didn't follow through last night because I didn't want to be picked up as a material witness. But first, I'm going out to prove a few things that'll keep me from being picked up, and then I'm going to make my report to the police.
Aren't you jumping the gun, Dollar?
You know more about guns than I do, but I learned a lot about Bonnie Goodwin while I was tracking her down yesterday. And one thing I learned, I like her kind better than I do yours. There wasn't anybody around to help her last night when she needed it. But I'll bet she had plenty of help making her first big mistake. Probably from you. Any morgue is a masterpiece of refrigeration. Just thinking of one can give me a real cold chill. When I walk into one, I feel an icicle forming on each separate vertebrae in my spine. And when I start walking out of one, I feel the ice begin to melt.
You do yourself any good?
Maybe. Thanks for letting me go through a thing. Here, buy yourself a cigar.
Oh, this I'll buy a box. It's a big tip.
It should be. You've been a big help. I'd gone to the morgue to find an address, and I'd found it. In the suitcase, monogrammed BG for Bonnie Goodwin. I also found that the body had been identified by her roommate.
What do you want?
I was a friend of Bonnie Goodwin's. I want to talk to you about her.
You're no friend of hers. I knew them all. Leave me alone. There's nothing to talk about. She's dead, isn't she?
Yeah. And I have a pretty personal interest in it.
Why?
I was with her just before she walked into the alley. And you might be interested to know that she was using your name.
How do you know? You don't know my name.
Janie Page. I see you're packing.
I might be unpacking.
When you pack, you fold things on the bed. When you unpack, you put them on hangers as you take them out of the bag. Now, you know where you're going?
You better close the door. Well?
I don't have to be a quiz kid to figure out that you're leaving because you're scared. You're probably running away from the same thing Bonnie didn't have a chance to run away from. I'd like to find out what it is.
Bonnie didn't have any big brothers looking out for her. What's your angle?
I'll break it down for you. About 10% of my interest is keeping myself from being implicated in what happened last night. The other 90% might get me a merit badge and a Boy Scout troop. I'm just trying to do my good deed for the day. I'd like to see somebody get paid off. Who's your candidate? King Hart?
He's one of the people she was afraid of.
For a little girl, she had a lot of people after her. Did she double-cross too much, talk too much, or just know too much?
She knew too much.
About what kind of thing?
The kind of thing smart people stay away from.
What didn't she?
She couldn't. For a girl being mixed up with the wrong people is an incurable disease. She just waited out.
Mm-hmm. I see what you mean. You can't throw a bad reputation into reverse. If you can stand a compliment, you strike me as being a gal who might have a better chance than most of busting out of this unsmart set.
I can't figure you out. What do you really want from me? What are you doing here? Who are you working for?
I always feel sorry for you, kids. Particularly the nicer ones. Oh, who knows? Maybe I'm just being selfish. Maybe this is a good chance for me to show off in front of heaven. I'd like to revise those percentages I gave you. From now on, let's call it 10% me, 10% Boy Scout, and 80% you. Well, now that I've cut you in for most of the profits, can I get some help?
I haven't got much to give you, but I think it was King Hart.
Why? Is that insurance policy?
That'd be one good reason.
And the others?
She brushed him. He wanted to marry her, but she brushed him. He was crazy jealous.
King Hart claims he was in New York at the time of the shooting. If he can prove it, he's clear. But assuming that he did have some gun work to do in Chicago, who would he hire to do it? A guy named Joe Emma, by any chance?
Joe Emma? He'd be more interested in shooting King Hart. They split up over Bonnie Goodwin. Emma wouldn't leave her alone till after Hart got out of town.
Is that enough reason for him to kill her?
I don't know. I don't know how jealous he got.
There's only one other thing I'd like to know.
What?
How I'm going to help you. I want to do something more than just help you pack. Hey, how does this sound? You and Bonnie are about the same type, same build, same hair, close enough to confuse anybody in a dark alley.
Hey, what have you got going?
If I could get a little story published on the first page of the evening paper to the effect that the body in the morgue, originally identified as Bonnie Goodwin, is not Bonnie Goodwin, that it was identified in error and actually is you, Janie Page, I think we could sweat Bonnie's killer out in the open, trying to finish the job.
Hey, what are you trying to do to me? I'll get killed.
No, you won't, because you won't be waiting here for them. I will. Expense account, item 7, 5 cents. Phone call to an old newspaper friend. Expense account, item 8, another nickel, one evening newspaper. Which proved to me the power of having old friends, and which I hope would prove to me the power of the press. The story, including the girl's address, was right above the weather report. And it looked like a fair night for Chicago, but a stormy night for me. I learned early in my career that when you're waiting in an apartment for the arrival of killers, don't just wait. I opened a window onto the street, made myself a pot of coffee, sandwiches, sat down in an easy chair facing a door near the telephone, and had a picnic. For dessert, I had a sweet, rich idea, which made me feel much better. When a little after 10, I heard a car pull up outside. When I heard footsteps coming up the hall 20 seconds later, I picked the telephone out of its cradle, dialed 1 to get rid of the telltale tone of a line not in use. Come on in. It's unlocked. King Hart. Repeat, King Hart.
What are you up to, Dollar?
I'll tell you what I'm up to. At the other end of this phone line is a police lieutenant listening. He knows that you're here with me, so don't get rough.
I don't care who's listening. Where is he?
Who?
You know who, Bonnie. That body down some more than her.
I wish I had this much luck fishing. People seem to bite easier. I suppose you're here because you missed her the first time.
Don't be stupid. I'm trying to save her life. Where is she?
He's sitting next to the lieutenant who's listening on his telephone.
I don't believe it.
Come on. You can talk to her.
Okay. But you better be right.
Here, take the phone. Right over the head. Oh! I dragged Mr. King Hart to the living room closet, went back to the phone, and really told the police to tell them that I had their man. I still had the phone in my hand when the apartment door opened, framing two masses of manhood, one of whom I knew. So this time, just to play safe, I said into the live phone, Joe Emma, and help her.
Shut the door, Andy. Yeah. Well, if it ain't our insurance deal, who you talking to with that telephone?
The police. I just gave them your name.
Hang it up.
Okay.
Pretty smart trick, I suppose. But I got news for you. What you just did ain't even evidence. But you ain't going to be around to corroborate. We ain't going to be here when the cops get here. Now, where is she?
If you're looking for Bonnie Goodwin, your search is narrowed down. You've got the whole rest of the world to look because she ain't here.
Now, where is she? Hey, Emma. She's hiding in the closet there. The knob just moved. Oh? That's where you got her. Okay, Angie, stay on this guy. I'll take care of Bonnie. Come on out, sweetheart.
I'm coming, Joe! Where are you?
Joe Emma had expected the pleasure of kicking a girl around, but instead found himself being belted around by a man. Angie's right hand dove for his offset and not distract himself. Just as he snapped another shot at King Hart, I snapped a flying tackle at him. Oh! Now you missed again, Angie, and it's over you. Now, congratulations, King. That's a delightful right hand you throw.
Never mind that. Where's Bonnie?
She's dead, Hart. I printed that newspaper story that she's still alive.
I didn't read any newspaper story. I just came from the city morgue. That baby they got isn't Bonnie Goodwin. I never saw her before.
Isn't Bonnie? Well, then why did... Oh. Emma kills her roommate in the dark alley by mistake. So Bonnie switches identities to make herself officially dead so she can live longer.
Where is she? I want her back.
I thought all you wanted was to get her name off that insurance policy.
That isn't true. But if I wanted an insurance investigator to find her, what else could I tell you till you take the case? I want her back.
You'll have to make up her own mind about that. For you, I'm not playing Cupid. I'll tell you what I'll do. You tell me all the sweet, pretty things you want to say, and I'll repeat them to her. Expense account, item 9. $28.40. Dinner, while repeating all the sweet, pretty things King Hart had wanted to say to Bonnie Goodwin. And telling her all the unsweet, unpretty things I felt about his kind of guy.
Don't worry, Johnny. I'm not going to him or anybody like him.
Well, where are you going?
Back to my hometown, I guess.
Your hometown didn't seem to do a very good job of giving you a start the first time. How far from Chicago is it?
It's only about 28 miles north of here.
Here's an envelope. Well, what's in it? You'd better buy yourself a ticket that'll take you about $3,000 worth west of here.
Oh, Johnny,
Expense account, item 10, 20 cents. 2 beers, one for me and one for King Hart. I told him that his money was taking Bonnie on a little trip back to happiness. And he told me that if I ever expected to collect any expense money from him, I knew where I could go. Expense account total, $163.55. You'll notice that this is very low, but remember, I'm paying this one myself. Yours, very truly, Johnny Dollar.
truly, Johnny Dollar, directed today by Gordon P. Hughes, stars Charles Russell, with script by Paul Dudley and Gil Dowd. Featured in the cast were Georgia Ellis, Paul Dubov, Martha Wentworth, Lou Krugman, Gene Bates, and Larry Dobkin. The special music is written and conducted by Leith Stevens. Be sure to be with us at the same time next week when another unusual expense account is handed in by yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Cheek to cheek, I'm in the mood for love. Isn't it a lovely day? That's what you think. Nope, that isn't just a mixed-up sentence. That's just for the top hits you'll hear on your Hit Parade on Parade tonight. Top hits from 1935. Without a word of warning, I'm on a seesaw. Yes, more hits dressed up in bright new 1949 arrangements and played and sung by the nation's top vocalists and musicians. Be sure to hear your Hit Parade on Parade this evening in Jack Benny's time on all of these same CBS stations. This is Roy Roy. Your Hit Parade on Parade follows immediately. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, if nothing else, at the end of that episode, Johnny Dollar was quite proud of himself for his efforts. I like the little reference in there to Sam Spade and Richard Diamond. That was cute. The one, and this is so far, I think, my favorite of the Russell episodes that we've heard. And the one comment that I did read over on the nostalgia pages that was kind of interesting was they said that the Russell episodes really were different from the rest of the Johnny Dollar shows. And I think that's right. For better or for worse, there's a definite difference about this series under Russell. And I think it's a nice little quirky quality that I'm glad we're getting to enjoy. So, all right. Well, we got a couple more comments to get to, and then we will wrap it up for this week. We got just a very nice, great show comment on Podcast Alley, and a comment from Albert Landis. It's on our new Facebook page at facebook.greatdetectives.net. It's Al Landis, the security officer from Covington, Georgia, still listening to your show. Keep up the good work. P.S. Not sure if you know this, but Covington is the real Hazard County from the show The Dukes of Hazzard. I love that. Love that show. All right. Well, we're going to actually wrap it up here. Got any comments, please send them to me over to box13 at greatdetectives.net. And please cast your vote for the show on Podcast Alley every month over at podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. But from Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.